Dr. Miskowitz?
Here.
Mrs. Seward?
Here.
And Mr. Cohen?
I'm here. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We have a pretty full agenda today. It's great to see some of our students in the audience, so welcome to them as well. I'm going to start our meeting. Just want to point everyone's attention to our agenda. For tonight, the Sunshine Law is the first on the agenda. That is basically our notice has been submitted to the Asbury Park and to the Star Ledger pursuant to Open Public Meetings Act. Statement of videotaping. These meetings are videotaped, so please be aware that any portion of the meeting, as well as public comments, can be videotaped. Public comments will be followed on our agenda in a little bit. Those public comments will also be subject to a time, and obviously if you're interested in speaking, please sign up. There will be a first public comments and then a second public comments. This is school grounds, so again, our policy here in Marlboro is no smoking or vaping on public school grounds. Would everyone please rise? And I understand we have one of our Marl students who's going to lead us tonight through our Pledge of Allegiance. Who's that? All right, let's get you a microphone. And everyone, please face the flag. Go right ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
And what's your name? No, into the microphone.
Jonathan.
Welcome, Jonathan, and thank you. You did that great. All right. Thank you to Jonathan and to Marl for doing that. All right, we are going to get started with our agenda for the evening. I'm going to turn to Mr. Malone to talk to us about staff respect certificates.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. As we do every month, we recognize specific staff members in light of our year of respect and their actions that they have taken throughout this year. Our first staff member is Mr. Jim McCann, Vice Principal at Marlboro Middle School and Supervisor of Music. He has demonstrated respect and genuine kindness to those with the privilege of knowing him both inside and outside of MTPS. As a veteran of the U.S. Army and dedicated leader of his community, Mr. McCann has continuously dedicated himself to serving others. At MTPS, Mr. McCann is an empathetic leader, a patient listener, always checking in on others with a strong sense of responsibility for those he works with. MTPS and Marlboro Middle School are fortunate to have Mr. McCann as a leader, mentor, and supporter of the student, staff, and community. And although he could not be here tonight, I know he's watching us from home, so let's give him a big round of applause, Mr. McCann. Next up, we have Principal of Marlboro Elementary School and Vice Principal of Marlboro Elementary School, Mitch Schatz and Kathy York. Mr. Schatz, you can stand up here while I read about you.
Thank you. You know how much I love that, Mr. Malone.
The unwavering dedication of Mr. Schatz and Miss York has been instrumental in creating a school environment where every student feels truly valued and at home. Their leadership in introducing the district's newest special education program has made an extraordinary impact, transforming the school into a place where all students can thrive. Through their thoughtful and compassionate approach to this initiative, Mr. Schatz and Ms. York have not only provided crucial support for students with special needs, but have also cultivated a school-wide culture of acceptance, empathy, and understanding. Their commitment to this program ensures that every student, regardless of their individual challenges, feels an undeniable sense of belonging, making this school a place where they can grow, learn, and reach their full potential. The positive influence of this initiative extends far beyond the classroom, helping to shape a vibrant atmosphere where respect, kindness, and inclusivity are celebrated. I am deeply inspired by how the entire school community has come together to support every student, creating a space where differences are embraced and every individual is empowered to succeed. Congratulations, Mr. Schatz and Ms. York. And it doesn't only just take the leaders in the building, it takes our staff and students as well. So I'll be calling up our staff who are part of the program that I just described as well, and I'll read a little blurb about them as well. Students in Mrs. Gwid's and Mrs. Pollock's class participated in the Knocking Down Hunger Cereal Box Challenge and Community Service Project. We're going to hear about that a little more, and Mr. Schatz will come up and introduce that. But we also have our staff members involved in the special needs program at Marlboro Elementary School called the ERI program, and we'd like to recognize those staff members for their dedication and support in really creating this program from the ground up, and not yet, and to the point where, and I know you heard this in our budget presentation, that we'll be expanding that program as well. So if I'll call each name individually, if you can come up here, and then if you hold your applause, because we do have a few staff members we're going to read, and then when they all stand up here, we can give them a nice big round of applause. Okay? Okay, Nicole Pollock. Okay, we can clap for them individually. Nicole Gwitz. I know some aren't here, right? Mike Kuzniak, not here, but look, we can give him a round of applause. Barbara Lorenzo. Heather Ginsberg. Maureen Fasano. Beth Sadie. And Diana Afonso. Let's do a collective round of applause now. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. Congratulations, everyone. That is awesome. Mr. Malone, I think you're still up, right?
I am still up.
Next round of student recognition and respect certificates.
And now our students. Student recognition and respect certificates are going to Marlboro Elementary School this evening. As I mentioned before, students in Mrs. Gwid's and Mrs. Pollock's class participated in the Knocking Down Hunger Cereal Box Challenge and Community Service Project. I'd like to welcome Mr. Schatz to explain that project and introduce our students.
Thank you very much, everybody. So just a little background. During the month of February, our students helped to collect cereal boxes through the entire Marlboro Elementary School community. The students then organized a school-wide event. They pitched it to me, thought it was a really good idea, where the boxes were set up in a row like dominoes throughout our school and then knocked down as students lined the halls of our school cheering them on. On February 21st, the students then assisted dropping off the over 500 boxes of cereal, which was equivalent to 527 pounds, to the Fulfill Food Bank in Neptune, New Jersey. So, boys and girls, well, I know there's some of them can't be with us tonight, but those of you who are, we're proud of you all and your teachers very much for what you did. And that's why we asked you to be here tonight with our Board of Education. All of your hard work showed that you have earned the title of kind kids. That's our school motto, and you guys proved that you are kind kids. I would be remiss if I also didn't thank our staff for their hard work with their project, because it takes a village to raise our kids, and they really put in that effort and the personal touch that makes it special and makes it really meaningful for me. And lastly, a special thank you, because it takes a village, to our transportation department and our courier, Mr. Scully, because without them we couldn't have gotten this great work done. It really does take a village, so thank you, everybody. You want to present the certificates now? Okay. Okay. So we have a little video to show you what this actually looked like. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun making it.
The Great Cereal Box Domino Challenge to knock out hunger.
Let's cover the great one of the cereal box hill.
Our students created a flyer, and cereal was collected from the greater school community for about a month and a half.
We need your help. Bring more cereal boxes so we can make it go around the school. You just need to bring more box.
Our goal was to collect 500 boxes.
Bring them in by February 11th. We're counting on you to help us make a difference.
The day of the challenge was finally here. The cereal was sorted into bins, and our class worked together to set up the dominoes. Mr. Schatz did us the honor of starting us off.
I'm coming through. Watch your... the food pantry after we're done.
The day after the domino challenge, the cereal boxes were packed up in bins and our students delivered them to the Fulfill food pantry. While there, our students were able to help the volunteers from the food pantry to make boxes to put the food in. Our final cereal donation was weighed and amounted to 527 pounds of cereal. Way to go, Room 22 and the Marlboro Elementary School community.
Just wanted to state for the record how nerve-wracking it was to set those boxes up. They had a safety like every 10th box, so we didn't knock them over prematurely. Yep. All right. First, well, how about Aiden? Is Aiden here? No, Aiden didn't make it. Aiden Safarian, Andrew Muslev, Chad Christensen could not make it. Jonathan Zara could, though. And so did Amina Lombardo. And we would also like to acknowledge Brianna Brown and Sincere Bass. Great job, everybody.
Congratulations, that was awesome. I know those hallways. My kids ran around those hallways, so just watch that continuously circle around. That was incredible. Congratulations, and I'm so glad that you had the assist to sort of keep it going. All right, Mr. Balone, we're still on with you, and you're about to do student impact.
Yes, so now we can cue up the student impact video from Mrs. Sinisi and Mrs. Herman's room at Marlboro Middle School. Let's watch a short video. We'd like to thank Chartwell's, our food services provider, for providing real-world experiences for our students. And they actually, what you saw there was not staged. That was actually prepping and setting up for middle school lunches. So thank you once again.
Okay, congratulations on that, and what a great program. And one more item for you, Mr. Balone, artwork on display.
Yes, artwork. As Robertsville's artists are spotlighted this month, so is their determination and hard work. The included video goes so far as to showcase each grade level's respective learning journeys, whether it be first grade's introduction to the elements of art or fifth grade's analysis of the principles of design. Our artists have devoted themselves to their artistic achievements. In fact, our upcoming art show epitomizes what this truly means. Roadrunners turn artists is an art exhibition held at Robertsville each year. It's a special occasion aimed to celebrate the creative accomplishments of our students. The art show showcases every Robertsville artist throughout all grade levels, while also hosting interactive art-making activities for all ages too. Please join us in celebrating the many successes of our students. I know Mr. Giarratano is here as well. Thank you for attending.
A collage is something that you can make out of scraps and papers. My aunt will be in my collage and my donut too. We're making apples inspired by Marlboro Township. He uses a lot of color, and we're using paint sticks. We made self-portraits. So we're making self-portraits inspired by Tim Burton in The Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's really cool, and this is what mine looks like. Tessellations are optical illusions. I'm turning my tessellation into a witch. Right now we're doing a heart map, and our heart map is like what's in your heart, like memories or like something you really love. I'm like drawing like hockey stuff and like these goalie pads because like my brother, he really likes hockey and he's like really important to me. So.
In addition to all this, we've been inspired by the art shows taking place in the art world recently. Robertsville created its very own tiny art show. I hope that our art makes people happy, but also encourages them to take more time now and then to slow down and notice the little things. Sometimes we get so caught up in our routines and forget that there are tiny surprises everywhere all around us. McKay Linker Bayer.
That was amazing. I don't know if you've noticed, but when I was watching it, you can't help, whether it's kindergarten, first grade, or fifth grade, the smiles on kids' face that art brings, regardless of the age, is just amazing. And what creativity and what talent, right? So congratulations, and thank you for sharing that. All right, I'm going to suggest we take a quick recess.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just suggest,
Sure.
for Mr. Ballone, is there any way that we can share these videos on social media so that the children that aren't able to attend can still feel honored in a way, and their parents feel like they could view a little more better at home? I know the images via YouTube aren't great, so maybe we could start sharing these on our social media sites just so that the kids, maybe it could be shared by their families, or they could see it on a clearer. These videos are always such great quality, and I smile the entire time watching them. It's the best part of being a board member, so just throwing it out there. Maybe we could.
Yeah, I'll have
Share it on a
I'll get
broader-
together with our communications
Easy
team in the
content.
district.
It's easy content.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I love that idea. I was actually suggesting, Mr. Ballone, at some point, some of the pictures that they were doing in all the grades, they were great T-shirts. I mean, they would just be fantastic to sort of, to wear your art. So I love it. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Any other comments or discussion from the board? Motion to take a 10-minute recess? Ms. Seward, second. Ms. Gandhi, all in favor? Let's take a recess. Thank you. Carabello, will you do a roll call, please?
Mrs. Carrero,
Here.
Mrs. Belomo,
Here.
Mrs. Gandhi, restroom. Okay. Mr. Alonsky,
Here.
Mrs. Mendez,
Here.
Dr. Miskowitz,
Here.
Mrs. Seward,
Here.
and Mr. Cohen.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Carabello. All right, Mr. Balone, we're going to pick it up where we left off. We're up to announcements.
Okay, I do have two announcements. One is regarding the YMCA before and after care. I know the board tasked both Mr. Caravello and I to begin negotiations for next year with the YMCA. I have reached out to several family members who have expressed concerns with the program. I've reached out to every single family member and have either had phone conversations or in-person meetings that are continuing into the following week. And I'll compile that information, and that will help us inform our negotiations for next year and moving forward. If there are any families out there who have not reached out to me who would like to, I welcome that. And that will certainly help us, as I mentioned, help us have a better program for next year. So we're looking for that feedback. The second announcement, I did mention this in or Mr. Caravello and I mentioned it in the budget presentation last week, right? That was just last week, wasn't it? Regarding our kindergarten plan. This is certainly a preliminary plan for kindergarten for next year. Currently, as you know, we have kindergarten students in 3 of our 5 elementary schools. The other 2, Asher and Robertsville, currently do not have any kindergarten students in those buildings. Next year, we plan to have some form of kindergarten in both Asher and Robertsville as well. I can't say that we'll have the entire population of Asher and Robertsville because we just can't quite fit them in there. But we will have some kindergarten students in all 5 of our elementary schools, and there will be some who do remain at the Abbott Early Learning Center. Some preliminary questions that may come up: how do you decide who goes where? We're still formulating that plan. But I would like to make it public that we will be accommodating, to the best of our ability, families with siblings. So if you have, for example, a 3rd grader at Asher and a rising kindergartner, we're going to do everything in our power to keep those children together. We currently employ that practice with students who, or we try to, with students who attend other schools other than their home school setting. So we're going to try to accommodate families in that way. We also urge families, if you have a rising kindergartner out there and you're listening, please register early, and early means now. So we are taking registration. That only helps us plan for next year. Kindergarten is really the only unknown that we have when we're trying to staff our buildings for next year and formulate our classes. So we will also, if you register early, we can guarantee you, or at least with greater certainty, guarantee your homeschool location. If you're a last-minute registrant, we may not guarantee your homeschool location, and we may have to place you wherever we have room. So please register early. That's the information we have right at this moment. As more information becomes available, we'll be sharing that. I do have a write-up that I've shared with both transportation, because they're a big part of this role as well, with Mr. Perno, the kindergarten supervisor, and some of our district administrators. So we do have a write-up that we'll be posting both on our website and also be sending out to our kindergarten registrants who are current, and then any new registrants, they will be given that information as well. So more to come on that, but that's sort of a preliminary view on what kindergarten will look like for next year. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Malone. Any questions from the board for Mr. Malone? Just one comment, Mr. Malone? Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Miskowitz.
Why? Yes, that's a good question. So we have an expanding need at the Abbott Early Learning Center, both on the special ed side and also on the preschool side. So we need more classrooms in that building to accommodate for that. So this just seemed like a good transition. Again, can't do it with every student, but we will make the room that we need.
Thank you, Dr. Miskowitz. My only request is, because some people may hear this and some people may not, it would be really, I know you're planning on communications. I would just, urge you to sort of have as much communication as possible, continued communication, just in case someone doesn't get the message the first time or the second time.
Yes, it's, we will have it on our website. I guess the challenge is we don't know who our families are sometimes, right, for kindergarten. So we could even, maybe even put it out to the district but it doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. But it will be on our website as soon as transportation and Mr. Perno looks at it, and we have several set of eyes on it. But we can certainly continue to communicate it and make sure everyone is in the know.
Thank you. And would it be appropriate, given the fact that kindergarten may be for kids or for families that are moving into Marlboro, to maybe also share that with the township so that it goes into the township communications?
I can do that, and as I sit here and think, I can also share it with some of the private preschools that we have. So we can certainly do that.
That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, moving along on our agenda, Mr. Caravello, school bus driver and building maintenance abstracts.
Sure, all abstracts were run and all have privileges in good standing.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next item on the agenda, that's public comments. Mr. Caravello, you have a list for us?
Sure, I have one signed up, Mrs. Carolyn Bracht.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you? Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Carolyn.
Miss Bracht, I'm sorry,
Yes.
can you pull the microphone a little closer? You may have to tilt it down a little bit.
I'll hold it.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Carolyn Brock, and I'm the current kindergarten math coach. I've been in this district since 2008, teaching kindergarten, and then took on the position of the kindergarten math coach in the year of 2016. Kindergarten is unique because it is a time when the vast differences in children's abilities are most noticeable, reflecting the wide range of developmental stages and reflecting the different paces at which each student develops. Kindergarten age students are students that we literally have no academic background information on unless they have attended our Marlboro's preschool program. In Marlboro, each kindergarten takes a screener to give us a knowledge about the student. The screener has evolved over the years and has become a strong indicator for students that may struggle. From the information gathered from the screener, the coaches are able to identify students that may struggle and or not have a solid foundation of pre-kindergarten skills. This year, the kindergarten instructional coaches implemented an early intervention model where we would push in and pull out students that were indicated at possibly needing extra support as soon as possible instead of waiting for an IRNS meeting and starting RTI paperwork. Specifically speaking for math, I was able to reach 20 students and avoid to start the RTI process for these students. I met with these students 3 to 4 times a week in order to fill those gaps and build that solid foundation that was lacking for the rest of the kindergarten math standards to be taught. It was a huge success. So this is where the problem comes in. Yes, the solution of absorbing the kindergarten students to the elementary coaches. This may look great for the budget numbers and the money that needs to be accounted for, but there is no possible way that any of our students will receive the same level of support that is happening right now. The instructional coaches that are absorbing this position do not have enough time in the day or their schedules to be effectively supporting students for the highest achievement. There is only a certain amount of minutes in a school day for students and work day for teachers and coaches to meet and provide support for our struggling learners. As a rule, In an instructional coach position, it's not just servicing Tier 3 students, but as I quote from our manual, we are classroom supporters, instructional supporters, curriculum and content facilitators, data analysts, facilitator for change, learner, professional learning facilitator, resource, school learner, leader, and then Tier 3 intervention. If you would like a description of what those roles entail, I can send it to you or make you a copy. I want to add that the instructional coaches are responsible for Tier 3 meetings, paperwork, Tier 2 meetings, paperwork. They can meet with teachers to assist planning, monthly IRNS meetings, monthly coaches meetings, grade level meetings, new student testing, September to December, placement season, May and June, and during marking period 1 for new students to the district, possible data meetings with administrators and data specialists, and the elementary coaches specifically maintain building level spreadsheets for Tier 3 at-risk students. Adding kindergarten to the elementary school coaches' current schedules, which, if any of you are curious to know how many each coach services at the building levels, there are plenty of spreadsheets that are easily accessible with that information. This will place an additional strain on and will affect our teachers who are already managing large class sizes, Tier 2 and 3 students with a wide range of academic abilities, and their struggling students will have less time with an instructional coach. Without the coach to support these struggling students in an appropriate way, teachers might find it increasingly difficult to meet the diverse needs of our classrooms. Additionally, eliminating my kindergarten role and expecting the existing instructional coaches to absorb these responsibilities will have a major repercussion and negative consequences. And most importantly, it is impractical. I urge you to think about the difficult decision that needs to be made. Maybe there is a way to look at the numbers that are being calculated, positions that might be overlooked, that would not have such an impact on our students, especially the struggling ones. I've done my own research to know that board members mentioned their knowledge, background, and experience in budgeting in their campaigns. I also know that another board member referred to the knowledge that school budgets are publicly available and requestable to any parent or community member. This member also referred to the fact that most people don't understand those numbers and what they ultimately mean, nor should we expect that because most people do not have the time to analyze that information. So this brings me to my questions of the night. Did any one of you, as a board member, play a part in the proposal? If so, in what manner? Did they ask for feedback? Did anyone get asked to sit down with Mr. Caravello or any other Marlboro employee that determined that this was the best decision for the students of Marlboro? I heard Mr. Caravello say at last week's board meeting that after addressing the state aid and a call to the NJSBO, he said that there was a couple of criteria that he's not really sure about, and I quote, "I may not be understanding this 100% because it's again still a little wonky and hard to navigate." What if this is the opportunity that's being missed to save those important roles? Middle school coaches were cut. Has anyone followed up to see how that has planned out? How are the middle school students receiving needs through RTI? What repercussions have occurred? I have always been an open book, and I'm willing to answer any questions you have about the importance of my job. I am also open to any single one of you to follow my day and day out schedule with me to see how I travel to 4 different schools and service every kindergarten student of Marlboro in some manner. Finally, I want it to be clear that I'm not here tonight to be fighting for my job or this particular position. I was told that I would still have a job. I am fighting for the future students of Marlboro, especially the students that need the most support, which are the struggling students and the negative effects that it will have on them. And I thank you for letting me talk for more than 3 minutes. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Brock. I appreciate you bringing these to our attention and to the attention to the board. Mr. alone. Just a question for you on this, I guess, Mr. Caravella. I understand that, we are facing budget reductions and challenges and everything. And, these decisions sometimes are not easy decisions to make. I guess the question I have is in the context of if there were opportunities to see restorations in our budget in the out years, where would these types of restorations for the coaches sort of fall in place?
Yeah, that's a big if, right? And we're not sure where our state budgets are going. We know over the past several years, school districts have lost money. And Ms. Brock, thank you for the time that you've taken this evening, this morning, and last week in meeting with me. I do appreciate, I can't see her, there she is. I do appreciate the time, and we did talk about those sorts of things, right? If things do change, would we explore bringing coaches back in some way, shape, or form? Of course we would. We always would do that. But I don't want to put out an empty promise to say we would do that, because I don't know what school budgets are going to look like. A year from now, and I feel comfortable saying this, a year from now, we will be in the same position, right? Unless something drastic happens at the state level with school funding. Every school district in New Jersey, 600 school districts in New Jersey, are facing the same things we're facing. Rising costs that are outpacing our allowable increases. And that's just simple math. So unless something does change, which we hope it does, even before we lost our 3% of state aid this year, we still had a shortfall. It just added to the shortfall. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but I can only be hopeful, and if that does turn around, of course, we can look to restore positions. And these, Ms. Brock, I know I mentioned this to you as well today. These two positions were the most difficult reductions that we had to make. We made 5, and these 2 were the most difficult. The other 2 were basically based on attrition, retirement, and class size. These 2 we really had to look at creatively, and it still adhered to our principles, right? We're not increasing class size, we're not removing any programming, and we're not telling people, good people in our school district, that they have to find a job somewhere else. So while I know it's difficult to swallow personally when it affects your job personally, it's also difficult for us to make those decisions. But that was really our only alternative in facing the budget that we had this year.
Can I ask a question? I know, and thank you for speaking. I know the other day when we had our advisory meeting, I had a couple of questions, and you were able to answer them, and I appreciate them about this piece of what we're talking about right now. But hearing the staff member speak and hearing from her and the person doing the job, I'd like to hear both perspectives. That helps me, and I appreciate all the work that went into it. I feel like I know the tentative budget vote is coming, and this is there, and I feel like now hearing that, I have more questions, and I don't know where to ask them, because it affects my voting that comes in later. And I was taking notes, and so I just want to ask them, and I don't know, hearing the impact it was going to have on some students, hearing, the information you all shared, Vinny's in-depth presentation, I just feel like there's questions based on all of the pieces. So I don't know if that means I just put my vote out, or I don't know if anybody else has questions about it based on what she said, if we take a 15-minute break. I just want to ask how you want to do that.
So I think we're in the middle of public comments right now, so we're not taking a vote.
No, I'm not trying to vote right now.
So when we do get to the part where it's in the agenda, I think that's a good time for the questions to get asked. We have a discussion component.
Absolutely.
Right, and we can have that conversation.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I think that would be, allow all the other board members to sort of also weigh in on that.
Thank you.
Okay, does that work?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question also, I think, just trying to make sense of it. It's much different to see the elimination of a coach on the screen and in a presentation, and then to put a face to the name and be empathetic to the facts of how this would impact students. And I agree with Val, we're already in the preliminary vote for the budget, but I'm just trying to make sense. Was anything considered leading up to this decision, like maybe putting off the $36,000 in snow plowing at the middle school, or $40,000 in storage shed at the Buildings and Grounds facility? Like, can these things be pushed off one more year? And I don't know, can we maybe just move funds around in a different place in accordance to priority? I know we're a little late for this discussion, but obviously with this kind of public comment, it makes us feel like, isn't there anything else we can do?
Ms. Seward, if you're okay with saying some sort of answer, if you don't mind, if we can have those questions as part of the budget discussion? You're okay with that? Okay. Any other board members want to? Dr. Miskowitz?
I'd like to commend you for coming forward, because it's not a job that she's looking for. She's going to have a job, but you're thinking about the kids. And, I too feel the same way, that I hate seeing the position abolished at this point. I understand, well, the budgetary cutbacks and so forth, but I'm looking forward to when we speak later on together, because Mrs. Seward said putting a face to the position. I wasn't putting a face to the position. I was picturing faces, many little faces, not a teacher's face. That's a teacher for you. I'm sorry. That's the way I think.
Thank you, Dr. Miskowitz. Anyone else? Thank you. Mr. Carabello, anyone else on the list?
No, I have no one else on the list.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Aldo Petrino, Morganville, New Jersey. I just want to thank the woman that was just up here speaking. It definitely resonates to hear it coming from, the people who are the boots on the ground. I really implore the board, you guys are going to be the ones voting on this. You got to really make sure that, all avenues are being explored. I mean, I don't know what the feasibility is, but maybe, it being that we're looking at these 3% cuts, which relate to about $260,000, dollars of funding that we're not going to get, if it's possible, perhaps put a freeze on administration raises for the year, and see how much the savings is from there, and start from there. You got to make sure the boots on the ground, the ones that are actually with the kids in the classroom, have to be protected and fostered at all costs. So I really, I implore the board to do everything you guys can, because it's ultimately going to come down to your votes to pass this or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Bono?
Well, good evening, Mr. Cohen, Mr. Ballone, Mr. Gross, a couple years younger, members of the board, my fellow community members and colleagues. So nice to be here this evening. I appreciate the discussion on the budget and Ms. Brock coming out, in addition to reminding us how we have lost literacy coaches in the past. And historically, when positions get reassigned in this district, they do not return. Just like the kindergarten aides we were still in the old board office, when that presentation happened. Having said that, many years ago, just over 2 decades, I believe, we redistricted when we built, I think in 2002 or 2003, when this building was built in addition to the Early Learning Center. Seeing all the building that is occurring around town, the influx right here next to our building, knowing the number of families moving in, I do remember in the past at board meetings, somehow somebody was privy to information over the students coming in, the population, and the numbers of children that would be going kind of towards each building. And bringing that up, my question is, with the increase in preschool and special ed at the Early Learning Center, returning kindergarten to both Robertsville and Asher, has there been any discussion or consideration in the future about a possible redistricting in order to accommodate the students in their home buildings? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bono. Anyone else? Mr. Pollock?
Adam Pollock, St. Lawrence Way in Marlboro. I just wanted to thank the staff member also for coming out and speaking your mind. Like from my perspective, took quite a bit of courage for you to get up here and say what you said. And as a community member, I think that really embodies what like a good teacher is and speaking truth to power. Also commend the board and Mr. Ballone for having the conversation, being receptive to feedback. I'm not gonna say that I know what the right decision is on the budget or what the staffing should be, but I think having a dialogue for the community to understand what the impacts mean, putting a face to it, understanding from the boots on the ground what it means to the staff and to the students, super important. So I just wanted to say again, thank you for coming and saying what you said. It definitely resonated with me, and I encourage anybody, especially the staff, who has something to say about what's going on with the schools here to be able to speak their mind, and I appreciate the board also being receptive to the feedback, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pollock. Would anyone else like to speak who hasn't already signed up? As I see no one else, motion to close public comments. Ms. Mendez, second. Mr. Lalansky, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, we have closed public comments. We're going to move on to our agenda. We're up to the next item, which is communications. Mr. Ballone?
I don't have any.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, we have Superintendent's Report, HIV.
This is the HIV report from March 7, 2025 through March 13, 2025. There were 2 incidents reported.
Thank you. I'm going to recognize the meeting dates for our next board meetings. I want to draw everyone's attention to Tuesday, April 8th, which was supposed to be our next meeting for a workshop. That meeting has been canceled. We are then going to be meeting again as a board on Tuesday, April 29th, and then again on Tuesday, May 6th. Next item up is the approval of minutes. I'm going to so move on item number 1 for approval of the minutes for our February 11th workshop and executive, our February 18th special meeting and executive, and our February 25th regular meeting and executive. Can I have a second? Dr. Miskowitz? Any discussions? Mr. Caravello, can you have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Bellomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrero?
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
And Mr. Cohen?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Caravello. Moving on to our next item, Secretary and Business Administrator's Report. Mr. Caravello.
So this is just the submission for the Board Secretary's monthly certification and the payroll certification for the month ending February 2025.
Thank you. We're moving on to committee reports. As we have done in the past, I'd like to combine your committee reports. I'm sorry, committee reports. We're going to start with the committee reports. Mr. Chad Hyatt is not here today, so the Communications Committee, is there someone else who would like to give a report? If not, we will wait till the next meeting. Thank you. Curriculum, Dr. Miskowitz.
The Curriculum Committee meeting met on March 17th. We focused on 3 topics at our meeting. Updates on math and LAL was the first thing. We have been diligent about assuring that our curriculum is always up to date, and it is. We have also consistently learned through the tutelage of Mrs. Morgan Gross how well the students overall are achieving with some of the new standards which have been written into the curriculum during the summer of 2024. For clarification, curriculum is simply the framework that outlines the sequence of instruction. It will include overarching goals and objectives and possible methods of instruction. The part that's really important is the instruction. In Marlboro, the administrators, directors, principals, and supervisors have continued to work with the teachers to assure that not only are the lessons aligned to the curriculum, but to also assure that assessments are also aligned, as well as being rigorous. You can have the best written curriculum on paper, and if you don't have a way to assess it, it's useless. That work is ongoing. We also discussed how the needs of the curriculum are pulled together in order to prepare for the budget, which was our second topic. In actuality, all instructional members have a part in the development of the curriculum portion of the budget. To be clear, it's not just the central office administration putting this together. The principals, vice principals, supervisors, directors have a say. And they get those needs from the people who are the most important part of the instructional piece, our teachers. We all know, of course, that we can't have everything we want, so the administration has to look at the needs and the wants. The bottom line is preparing the budget isn't easy, and it isn't done in a couple of months. It's actually a year-long process, actually sometimes multiple years, that come together with the help of many heads trying to put a puzzle together. We are looking forward toward a possible future presentation to share how a single portion of the budget is prepared and all the work that goes into that one particular section. Our third topic of the day was how to communicate the curriculum to you, the public. We are going to try to engage with Mr. Hyatt and his communications committee in this discussion. The end.
Thank you, Dr.
But I have other stuff. You want me to do all of mine?
Sure. We'll jump over to Special Education Committee.
Okay, I don't have a report for the Special Ed Committee, but I do have for the SCOPE and CPAG Joint Committee. On March 12th, the Special Services Committee convened with the leadership.
Dr. Miskowitz, we're going to do that when we do liaison reports and PTO.
All right, we could do that, because last time you had me read everything together.
We do committee reports first, and then we skip on to the next one.
Okay, go on.
Okay.
That's your.
Thank you. Do you want to do Special Education Committee?
No, I do not have the report for that.
You do not, no report? No. Thank you. Policy Committee. Ms. Gandhi?
We met as a policy committee last week, and we reviewed the 2 policies that are up for first read today. And then, of course, we completed the review of the policy, HIB, policy 5512, which is up for second read. So we meet on a monthly basis. We're making sure that we're updating and pulling through information that's coming from Strauss Esme, and also looking at policies that haven't been touched for quite some time. So we need to kind of start looking at that as well and continue down that path that Val had started last year. So,
thank you. Safety and Security Committee, Mr. Wolonsky.
Sure. Safety and Security Committee received a progress report on the continuing security updates to all of our buildings. This was also shared with the full board and will be discussed later tonight in executive session. We continued with discussion of student cell phone use and accessibility, and in looking at the policy, we agreed we're in a good place from a safety and security standpoint, and I wait to see if the policy committee feels there are any needs or tweaks, because I know they will be reviewing that as well. We continue to review our security, including at our board meetings, and report our recommendations to the full board in exec later tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Wolonsky. Next is the Technology Committee, and I believe, Mr. Lolansky, you and Ms. Carrero co-chair that?
So we had our first meeting. Me and Ms. Carrero agreed that our first meeting consisted of Mr. Ballone and Mrs. Gross's visions for technology. So I asked Mr. Ballone to prepare a short synopsis. I think it would be the best for the full board to kind of get a short synopsis of what we heard that night to kind of get the ball rolling. So, Mr. Ballone?
Sure. So for starters, we actually revamped the Technology Committee's mission. And the mission of the MTS Technology Committee is to support the district in adopting and enabling current and emerging technology and innovation that advances the district's mission to educate and prepare students well into their 22nd century future. And that's something that is important for me. We hear a lot about 21st century learning. We are 25 years into the 21st century, and students born, or children born today, will live well into the 22nd century. So we need to prepare our students for the future, and in doing that, that's the 22nd century. We also talked about revisiting the 3-year technology plan that we had started last summer. So we will be engaging in multiple stakeholders, in gaining feedback, and kind of restarting that work that we did last summer, in formulating our 3-year technology plan that will carry us through the next 3 years. So from basically 2025 through 28. And then I know we also discussed revisiting that annually, even though it's a 3-year plan, still revisiting that annually in the event that things change, right? That plan is simply just a plan. Emerging technologies come out, things change, we may have to pivot in the moment. And that's pretty much where we were in terms of that work.
I have a question. Can I ask it now? Just in revising the mission, which I completely understand, it's written under the policy though, which we added we added descriptions from the MTPS site to each of the committees last year. So are you gonna then, I guess, send that updated language over to update the policy?
Yes, I didn't mention, we have it written here, it's policy 0155,
Yeah.
so yes.
Okay, thank you.
We have to revote, do a first reading and second reading with the policy amendment?
Yeah, it'll go through the votes. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ballone. Anything else, Ms. Carrero or Mr. Lolansky? That's it? Thank you. On the advisory committee, Ms. Mendez and I co-chair that as well, so please share, feel free to jump in. We met as well as a committee. We incorporated some of the feedback that we received on the draft charter that was shared with the board. We're going to finalize that and share with the board again for the next meeting so you have a full copy of it. And we talked a little bit about sort of next steps. We know we need to get moving with sort of reach out to the community to find some advisors, and we want to prioritize that based upon where we think the most or the greatest need could be. As well as sort of getting some input and some feedback from the board as well as to where you may think the priorities are. And then we will begin sort of the outreach process based upon the approach we've laid out in the charter. So the charter will sort of govern the way we sort of work as a committee, and it'll also sort of inform us as we move forward with the outreach efforts. So let me just see if Ms. Mendez wants to add anything to that.
No, I think you covered it.
Great, thank you. Ms. Malomo, I didn't see buildings or grounds on my list, but I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a report. That's what I thought, and I didn't want to overlook it. Okay, so that was just for everyone's purposes. It's a lot of the projects are being done over the break. We meet again in April, and that's when we'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, great, thank you. All right, moving along to our next item on the agenda, which is financial and business operations matters. Mr. Lolansky, will you read this one?
Financial and business operations matters. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, adoption of tentative 25-26 school year budget. 2, adjustment for healthcare costs. 3, use of bank cap. 4, maintenance reserve withdrawal. 5, travel and related expense reimbursement. 6, transfers. 7, list of bills. 8, secretary monthly reconciliation reports. 9, travel. 10, harassment, intimidation, bullying, HIB report. 11, McKinney-Vento tuition students for the 24-25 school year. 12, application to participate in semi for the 25-26 school year. 13, voluntary employee paid supplemental insurance plans. 14, approval professional services agreement with Tokakaski and Millen Architects LLC for HVAC improvements at Asher Homes and Robertsville Elementary Schools. 15, Marlboro Elementary School donation cafeteria balances. 16, Marlboro Elementary School donation. 17, Frank J. Dugan Elementary School donation. 18, state contract purchases. I so move.
Thank you. Can I have a second? I need a second.
He needs a second first. I'll second, and then I have a question too.
Thank you. Second from Ms. Mendez. Now we open it for discussion.
I just wanted to go back to my initial thing now of, for me to properly vote based on hearing that, my questions.
So I just want to make sure, so we just do it in a good order.
Yeah.
So Ms. Mendez, Ms. Seward, Dr. Miskowitz, okay? And then Ms. Condi, all right? And then if anyone else, we'll try to do it in sequence.
Yeah, thank you. I think, again, I just want to reiterate that I appreciate all of the information that was shared, and then hearing Mrs. Brock, it gives me another perspective that I appreciated and I didn't have before. So I have a variety of questions when it comes to the dollar amount, the options, and I want to make sure I'm asking in the right place. Is that a thing here? Because in this meeting, I'm just asking, do we take go to executive for 20 minutes? I just want to know how that will work.
If we're talking about the budget should remain in a public setting. It's not subject to executive.
No, I know, but there are some questions I'll have that may not, it is about the budget, but it may not be for the public piece of the meeting. So that's where I think to do that, I don't know. So I can just ask my first questions.
So I would suggest if you have a question that you think, and I appreciate this because you sat in my seat, so you know where the line gets crossed.
Mm-hmm.
If you do believe that there's some questions that you need, we do have the ability to go into exec.
Sorry to cut you off, Mr. Cohen. So if we're gonna discuss the position, it's the position, not the employee, because the employee has not been riced for this meeting, so it'll just be about the reduction of the position.
I'm not discussing any employees, but it's about positions, and I can ask it in public. I have no problem doing that. I just want to do the right thing. So, and that's why you tell me. If you want me to continue, I will.
If you would like, we can take a 2-minute recess, and we will just confer with council, and we'll make sure that your questions don't transcend into an executive conversation.
Right, so I'll pause, let everybody else ask theirs, and then.
Motion for a 5-minute recess.
Whatever you want to do.
Mr. Lansky, second. Ms. Carrero, all in favor? Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess just to confer with legal counsel.
Mrs. Bellomo,
Here.
Mrs. Carrero,
Here.
Mrs. Gandhi,
Here.
Mr. Holonsky,
Here.
Mrs. Mendez,
Here.
Dr. Miskowitz,
Here.
Mrs. Seward,
Here.
and Mr. Cohen.
Here. Okay, before recess, we were discussing questions. Ms. Mendez, you had some questions that you wanted to raise. I think we've answered your question that required the conversation regarding whether it's exec or not, and I want to just go back to you and have you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So my question, just for everybody, was that I wanted to verify the number of students that were going to be impacted by this change. And I appreciated the information provided about the impact on the staff that this would have. And so I would like just some, I guess, some color to that or clarity on that piece, because that was important to me. I also just wanted to share just a note to confirm for myself, just so I know, I'm not saying that's how I'm voting. If, I think, Mr. Cohen, you said that there is no way to just vote no to one section of this, right? You said it's either a no or a yes. You can't pull out a line item per se.
Correct. You can vote no to 1, 3, or 2, or any particular item, but you cannot sort of carve out a particular line item in the budget specifically and say no to this, but a yes to the rest of the budget.
Correct. Okay, thank you. So my questions I had asked. Thank you for that.
So your question, just for me to repeat it, is the number of students, you would like to know the number of students potentially impacted by the decision regarding the kindergarten coaches?
Correct. And then the impact, the potential impact to staff and that are taking on these students, and have they been conferred with to get their feedback to say, yeah, this feels manageable, you know, just like a level of change management to say, this is what's coming. I feel okay with it. I can take it on, and the children will still get the quality that they need and deserve, was the other part of my question, I guess, for now.
Okay. So second part of that question was impact to staff, but I mean, and I think you mean by the staff, the coaches who are going to be taking on the additional responsibility, the 1 through 5 elementary school coaches, and have they been part of the conversation with Mr. Malone in regard to the additional workload?
Mm-hmm. And the last one, I think Mrs. Seward said it also, is, and thank you, you had so much good information, Vinny. I'm not discounting that by any means. I'm just asking, what else? Because, like, where else could it be, to Ms. Sewer's point? I'm not saying, I know so much work was put into it. I'm just genuinely asking, what else could we do? If I'm concerned with this, and other board members will speak to you, and maybe you're like, nowhere else, Val, this is the best we have. This is the best I could do, and I appreciate and respect that too. I just want to know that, so that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Malone, do you want to respond to some of the questions, and then Mr. Caravel?
Sure. Might be a little bit out of order here, but regarding the quality that the Marlboro students deserve, that would not be compromised. That's one of my core values, that we don't compromise that. So the quality that our students deserve, that will be upheld, right? And our programming will not change as a result of this. The number of students ebbs and flows. More students are impacted later in the year as more students are identified for intervention services. The coach's role is not just intervention services, so without having the spreadsheet in front of me, I know what the spreadsheets are, and we know the number of students impacted. But I think it's important to note, while every student in kindergarten has the ability to have intervention or some kind of instruction or support, including the teachers, from our 2 kindergarten coaches currently, that will not change for next year. So, and Mr. Cohen mentioned it, at each elementary school, We have instructional coaches as well in ELA and math. And they currently service grades 1 through 5. They will service K through 5 next year. We have talked to administrative staff in terms of what this could look like, and we did mention this last week as well. That's actually one of the pros. Right? That's a positive piece, so you can have a little more continuity between K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up. Not to say the continuity isn't there now. I'm not saying that the way the job currently looks is ineffective. It's quite effective. But one of the perceived benefits that, and this came from feedback from the buildings themselves, was having the building level coach follow those students from the beginning all the way to the time they leave will certainly be a benefit. Where else could we cut? Where else could we cut? Ms. Mendez, I know someone else might have that question as well. We did make cuts, right? So we, I think, Ms. Ewert, you mentioned projects, right? Could we look at the B&G projects? We did. There are certain things we have to fix, right? We can't let everything go. But there are many things we did cut. Some equipment that we cut. What I think it's important to note here, curriculum cut about $60,000 from last year. Special ed cut a little more than $100,000. I think it's very important to note when we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, not even $100,000, right? When you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, almost $1 million. It was about 800.
I'll discuss the cuts because I want to give everybody just the background information. I know we've been meeting since December discussing the budget, and I don't mean to cut you off, Mr. Ballone.
Let me just finish my thought, and then I can let you get. So when we're talking about, call it, I'm rounding, $800,000 to cut, you can make little cuts here and there, but that doesn't even really cause a dent. But we do. We tried to split it. Ultimately, when you're looking to close maybe $300,000-$400,000 at that point, it's benefits and salaries. And while that is not something we ever want to do, if we hold steadfast to our principles, I'll say my principles, not affect programming, not affect class size, and not affect teachers' lives or livelihood, then that's why we are where we are.
So budget reductions, they're never easy, and thank you, Mrs. Brack, for coming up and speaking. I just want to go over just the background information when it comes to what it goes into making a budget, what we have to look at, and to Mr. Ballone's sentiment, we look at that. We want to go through attrition. We want to not affect people's lives. We've been looking at this since December. Unfortunately, our state aid numbers do not come in until February. So we start meeting with every department in December, as you know, through the budget calendar. We've been meeting since December. There's not many revenue sources out there for our district unless it's the tax levy. We go through revenue sources. We go through state aid. The tax levy, if you remember from our presentations, is about 94% of our total budget. We always look for additional revenue sources and where we can appropriate more money on the other end to balance the budget without having to make such significant reductions. Unfortunately, it's not plausible because you just can't inflate your revenues just to continue to spend money. You have to be fiscally responsible so we don't get into a position where you could be in a deficit or you could be, shortfalling this district and making drastic changes overnight, which are not beneficial for everybody. Which is why we proposed to you the health waiver for the $1.8 million and the remaining bank cap for $205,000. So that's $2 million right there that we're adding on to the 2% cap, because we can't sustain the rising costs based off of what we're actually bringing in, because there's just not enough revenue streams to go about. Couple that with the cuts we had to make, you're looking at a $2.7 million deficit that we faced when we were building this budget. Now you think on a $100 million budget, that's okay. That's not much, but in order to, to reach a balanced figure, you have to start looking at certain things that you may not want to look at. We met with every department. We took as much money as we possibly could without affecting programs, instruction, services, even had to reduce things that normally would not be. And it's never easy, but sometimes it's necessary because you never want to be at a dais where you're now making millions of dollars of cuts overnight. So we take all that into consideration and we look at that. We try to avoid this, and that's why it's my job as the business administrator to come to you when there's always opportunities to take additional revenue. As you recall, last summer, we did have an opportunity to recoup some of the state aid back through the tax levy by increasing it, but unfortunately it came out in July, which did not really add up to when we submitted and approved that budget. So again, shoulda, woulda, coulda, but when I come to the board with proposals when it comes to increasing revenues, that's a way to increase revenue that I would stand behind, even though it increases your tax base. It still avoids some of these conversations that we need to have. So just that's a food for thought for the future. When I come with a recommendation, we need to strongly consider taking any avenue of revenue that we get so we don't have these conversations. But nonetheless, we are in this position. So without those waivers, we would have had to make $2.7 million in cuts. So we took whatever we were afforded. We still had to make reductions. We went back to the departments where we already cut, and we cut them even further until we got to a number where, okay, there was not much more we can cut, so which is why we sit down with the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, really a lot of the administrators we pull together, and no one's ever left in the dark. And we talk about what we can reduce, because unfortunately benefits and salaries is about, I think, 92% of this entire budget. 81% of this budget. And those are your biggest increases. You had health benefits go up 15%. You had salaries across the board go up 3.5%, where we're at the mercy of our 2% main revenue stream. So that's why we have to make those difficult decisions in making those reductions. So for the one-time purchases, Mrs. Seward and Mrs. Mendez, we did look at all areas to cut, one-time expenditures and to cut, things that we could put off for next year. But unfortunately, this is the cliche of kicking the can down the road. If our state aid numbers don't improve, and when for quoting me saying it's a little wonky, I stand by that. It is very wonky, and until the state or the Department of Education gives us more clarity or more transparency on what goes into that funding formula, we're going to continue to see inconsistencies because they think we're an affluent district that should rely on the local fair share rather than the state for additional funding. And that's not sustainable, because everybody's costs go up no matter what kind of district you are. Some just get more state support than others. So we're hoping that changes, and it did, but it didn't change for the right reasons, because if you noticed the last presentation, we had no equalization aid, and everything went to special ed aid, security aid, and transportation aid. So we're hoping that improves, and again, we always try to look to the future, and if we do ever have a surplus or a revenue stream where we can add things back, we always discuss that. And the reason why, I know one person made a comment about never adding them back. Unfortunately, sometimes revolving costs cannot just be added back, because you're always looking for 2-3 years down the road if you have to reduce it again. You would never want to take it in and then take it out.
I appreciate all the work that goes into this. I know it's many, many months of preparation, and I appreciate and trust your expertise in this field. This is just a generic question. I'm not asking this for any other reason other than fair share. Is there any chatter of a tax reassessment in the town? Is there any discussion of property taxes going up to support these cuts in the district? I don't know, as far as the relationship with township and the district, is that something that's being discussed along with the population of the schools? Are we looking at a reassessment?
So I know the equalized value of the homes and the rateable, the tax assessed value and the ratables have been going up each year. So that actually helps us offset our tax rate when you see your increases. Because without those ratables going up, your taxes would actually skyrocket based off of how much we're raising the levy. So that kind of helps offset it. As far as a reassessment, that would really have no impact on our revenue funding or our revenue streaming. It really would, because we're only at mercy of what we already took the previous year, add 2% onto that. So if they were to reassess, that would only help our tax rate be nominal when it comes to the impact on.
I'll just, so you want to go, I'll say something real quick, do you mind?
Ms. Sewer, are you good with your, I know you.
I appreciate it. I know my question was answered, but I just, as far as the timeline goes, if the budget does not pass tonight, what are we looking at? Are we rescheduling the April 8th appointment? What is the, meeting? What does it look like as far as the timeline goes? Because I know we have a deadline.
Well, statutorily, the tentative budget, not the final budget, the tentative budget is due tomorrow to the county office. And if any changes were to be made, we would have a public hearing on April 29th to discuss any changes to the budget from what we originally approved.
I understand. Thank you.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Real quick, because you mentioned fair share.
Good.
I just wanted to, it's a tough decision, I know that. And I know that it's the first year I remember that we're going to the full 2%, we're going to the full bank cap, and we're taking the full health benefits waiver. And that's something I haven't voted yes on for a very long time. We've always left something, and this year we can't, because even with doing all that, we're faced with making these tough decisions. If you say fair share, make sure we all understand that means taxes.
Correct.
That
Your
doesn't
local
mean
fair share is your
means
tax levy.
taxes. So you say, I want to make sure everybody understands at home that fair share means taxes, nothing else. So, and we're taking the full ride. There's no place else we can go. We're taking every dollar we can, and from being on this board a very long time, it's been a very long time before I said yes to that. But you made, Tiffany's presentation was clear. His numbers, month after month, were very clear in the direction we were going and why we're here. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you. Dr. Miskowitz?
Vinny already answered one of my questions, but my other question will be to Mr. Blown. The children that are at Abbott, the kindergartners that will still be at Abbott, how will they be serviced?
So as I mentioned before, there will be some remaining students at the Abbott Center, despite moving some of them out to Asher and Robertsville. Those remaining classes, we're projecting at this point maybe about 3 classes worth. They will be serviced by our district data specialists, who are also coaches.
And they're experienced coaches?
Yes.
You don't have any, how many children are you anticipating just for Abbott? Total, not.
How many children total?
Yeah, for kindergarten.
So they have classes around 22-ish, so okay. 60 some odd students. Okay. But that doesn't mean every student needs intervention.
Yeah,
but
correct. I was just trying to get a picture in my head what was coming in there. Thank you.
Ms. Gandhi.
I wanted to first thank you for coming and speaking. We appreciate it because this did prompt further discussion. So thank you for that. I think everybody mentioned this. It is difficult. Just a few questions. So Mr. Ballone, just to kind of repeat it again, I know that we're eliminating the 2 positions for kindergarten coaches, but you mentioned that each building coaches will absorb that, correct? So maybe not ideal, but at least we have a backup plan. So I'm grateful for that. Just a thought, I don't know how much we spend annually on board PD development, right? Like, I don't know what that is. Is there a way we can cut that? And I don't know. Again, I don't know what that amount is. I don't know if that's a possibility. I mean, we can give that up for a year, see how things go. Again, I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, the cuts would need to be substantial, and that's only about 5 to 10 grand when it comes to board professional development, so.
Okay, I didn't realize it was such a small number, so thank you. I mean, there is, there's nothing, we're gonna have to make a cut somewhere. And I think that as much as I would like to save those 2 positions, I'm content, I guess, with knowing that they will still get the help that they need from the coaches in the building.
But until to your point, I can make small cuts everywhere. I can throw 1,000 paper cuts. The problem is that it's just a reoccurring issue. So I can make one-time cuts just to save something, and then the next year you're at the same thing again, where you're trying to figure out where to reduce, and sometimes the hole may be larger than not, because this year we're getting assistance through the health benefit waiver, we're getting assistance through other areas. Those options will not always be afforded to you. So sometimes you have to plan ahead by doing what's hard now. So to your point, you could do that. It's just, that's not really fiscally responsible or feasible long term.
Yeah. No, I mean, and also what Mr. Lelansky said makes sense. Like, we do need to vote for the bank cap and all of that, so that I know we have to kind of be mindful of that too, because then we hear from the community that taxes are going up, but something's got to give.
And the real killer is the health benefits. They've gone up now almost a compound like 27-28% over 2 years. My office and I, we always try to work with our health benefit broker to see what else is out there, equivalent or better, to go out there and try to shop our coverage, just try to just sustain those rates or go into a pool where it's more controlled, so we're not taking those hits. Because if we didn't have those increases, that would be something where, you wouldn't maybe have to account for as much in the expenditure side. The problem is our claims experience is just never good enough to be approached by any other vendor or any other health insurance pool where we're kind of like in limbo and stuck in the state plan. So that's one of the things we always try to be creative in looking at, even if it's not a revenue source, a way to reduce expenditures going forward so we can, include more.
Can you just remind me? I guess you can. Can you just remind me of the dollar amount that we're saving here again, or not saving, but that you're avoiding that you're putting back in the budget?
For what?
The two roles that you are eliminating, the FTE.
In our presentation last week, it was, if I'm reading this correctly, $205,570, which is the reduction on the kindergarten ELA and math coaches. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right information.
Yes, $205,570.
Yeah.
Ms. Condi, any other questions? Thank you. Any other questions from the board, please?
Sorry, I'm just still here. Sorry. Because I've been in this position my professional life here. I get it. I think where I'm still wanting to understand is the number. And I think I know you said there were about 60, but not all 60 are impacted of students. The number of kids that would be potentially impacted. I know we're not looking at a spreadsheet, just whatever you have.
No, Dr. Miskowitz had asked me how many students would be remaining at the Abbott Center. So estimating at this point with approximately 3 classes of 22 or 23 students per class, it'll be somewhere around 66, 67 students. That's where that number came from.
Okay, and that's the number of students and that would be impacted by this change?
No. So
that's my question. Yeah.
That's a different question. So there will be students who are currently at the Abbott Center, call it 4 classes, who will move out into both Robertsville and Asher, respectively. And the other remaining schools with current kindergartners in it, those students will be serviced by the building coaches located at the building. Currently, the kindergarten coaches travel to all of the buildings with kindergarten, and they also service the students at Abbott. So now we'll be having about 3 classes at the Abbott Center serviced by our district data specialists. And then the other buildings, the other 5 elementary schools, those students will be serviced by their building level coaches. So it's just a different structure, but there will be no students. I don't want to use a double negative. All students will be serviced.
Understood. And then my other question is Mrs. Brock listed a variety of roles and responsibilities or tasks within what she does. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. The staff member, apologies on that, mentioned that. Is it going to be the same exact service that the data specialist, sorry if I'm saying the wrong thing, is going to provide? Are they getting the same exact thing they had before, or is the service going to look different than what they were used to? I'm just curious. When is it a lift and shift of the same, not of obviously of the people, not minimizing their role, just understanding, are the services the same?
Yeah, the overall services will be the same. So students will not be losing anything. We're just going to be spreading what that looks like. We're also, when we do things like this, we also are mindful of offloading work on the coaches, let's say in the building, offloading some of their work so they can accommodate the new grade level, in this case, kindergarten students in their buildings. So we're looking at those pieces as well, especially on the math side. We have a very easy shift right now. The math coaches are teaching gifted and talented math. They will no longer be teaching that next year, so they'll have some openings in their schedule to service the K students.
That was my concern too, that if we're removing 2 coaches and they're going to be, basically absorbed by the building coaches, how it's going to impact. So your explanation helps that it's not going to be an overload of work. But I did have a question for data specialists. What's their background? If are they actual? Were they at one point coaches and then they became okay?
Well, yeah, I don't want to speak specifically about them, but they are subject matter experts in both math and ELA, respectively.
And one last question, sorry. For the number of kindergarten classes that we have, just roughly estimating, how many students are we thinking are going to be, and I know you don't have the numbers, but are we looking at 10 students? Are we looking at 15 that are going to be absorbed by these individual buildings? So total of 15 students broken down by all the schools. So we're talking about 2 or 3 per school being absorbed.
Could be, yeah, around there, right? Some schools have more than others, but you could probably figure 3 to 5 students per class. So depending on, each elementary school has a different number of kindergarten classes in there. So that's about a good estimate. You can never, could have more, could have less.
And I think the other thing that's important also for me to understand, when they have coaches, it's for a certain amount of time. So it's not that we're seeing these 5 kids have coaches for the full year. It's right, you get on it for a few weeks, you get to where you need to be, and then you're off that. So that number can vary. It could be 5 one month, but the next month it could just be 1.
True.
Right, okay.
And what will happen, and these staff will go into the classroom, you said, correct, in our last meeting?
The current coaches, the current kindergarten coaches? Yes, we'll go back into a classroom.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I have a question.
Ms. Carrera.
I'm curious, and if I can't ask this, I apologize. Would this be a demotion of any sort?
No, our coaches are our teachers, so certainly not a demotion, no.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Caravello, I just have a question for you. Something just on process you mentioned before. You said that by statute, our budget is due to the county tomorrow. All right? That's the preliminary budget.
Correct.
Then we have to, as a board, take another vote in April for the final budget.
Right, the public hearing.
Has anything, in the past, has the board or has the budget changed between preliminary that went to the county and final vote for the board? Do we have another chance to sort of, to look at something or adjust it if we had to?
It has. I know 2 years ago, we had to have a public hearing with changes, and you have to just announce those changes in public. And the county would need to know that you're changing the budget they're approving. So I would have to check off of that. And if there are changes, then you still have a hole that you need to fill.
Right. You still have a set number you have to eventually get to, a balanced budget. Okay. Any other discussions again on this item or any of the items within this section of financial matters?
I want to say one more thing, sorry. And if this is an overreach.
No, that's okay. No, this is
in
an
any
important,
way,
this
yeah.
is very important. Let's have this conversation.
Just a suggestion, a recommendation, I don't know if this is even possible. And again, if we're going over what administration does, please tell me that's not my place. Would it be helpful, because I know we're implementing this, would it be helpful to maybe 6 months down the road, kind of have the coaches come and meet with us in executive and get their take on how the impact has been of taking on kindergartners? Or we can't do that? Okay, I didn't think so. Okay. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure, so I apologize. All right.
Any other questions, discussions? Okay. We had a motion to move. We had it seconded. We're ready for a roll call. Mr. Caravello?
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Palomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrero?
It's difficult, but yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
I have to say the same thing. This is a very difficult decision, but I am, at least I know that the kids are going to be serviced by the coaches that are currently in the building. So for that reason, I know we need to be prudent on a lot of different things. So with a heavy heart, I guess, I vote yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
I think I'm going to ask this question, sorry. I understand it has to be submitted tomorrow. And then you could potentially, not saying we want to, I'm just asking, you could potentially make a change to Mr. Cohen's point if needed. Because I still don't have exact numbers and things like that in my head. I appreciate what you all shared with me, I'm just saying. So I could vote yes today, and then we can get, if we need to change, we could. Right? Just saying, not saying we would, I'm just asking.
Yeah, the tentative budget, just the preliminary budget, anything can be changed. It just has to be noted, and we would have to make those changes and offset them with different changes.
I guess I'm gonna say yes.
Mr. Alonsky?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
I want to say that, Ms. Brock, thank you for being here tonight and for raising the attention and the awareness, because I think this was a very healthy conversation in which a lot of board members had an opportunity to sort of really reflect on this and, you know, have this chance to talk. So thank you for that. And it epitomizes exactly what public comments are supposed to be, an opportunity to raise awareness of issues to the board from a more personal perspective. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the comments and the questions from the board members, because I think it's also very healthy, especially as a new board member, to sort of hear your viewpoints and your experiences. That was very, very helpful for me too. Given the fact that this has got to go to the county tomorrow, I vote yes, so that it can meet the statutory requirements. And I am going to rack my brains as to whether or not, what happens for the April vote. And I'm hoping that maybe, we can have some healthy conversations going forward. But I vote yes to the preliminary budget.
I'm sorry, can I change my vote?
I'm sorry?
Can I change my vote before roll call?
Okay. Thank you for that conversation. We're going to move on to the next item in the agenda.
Brian, can I just ask one question? And I can bring it up in old business. It's about this, now that we're done voting. I could do it in old business or now. It's just a question.
If it's about this item or
Yes.
any of the items here,
It's this item.
we've done with the vote, so it's
Yeah, it's just a question. Okay.
Yes.
Can I just ask, though, for me to be able to properly vote next time? First of all, I just want to say I understand all of the work that went into it. I am not discounting it. I know you do a million things to do this. I know you meet with staff. I appreciate it so much. My question is though, for me, I also like to hear from the boots on the ground, the people that are actually in the field. I love to hear all sides of it. And I felt like that gave me new perspective. And so I don't know how to get perspective, because obviously I don't want to overstep. But how do I know the impact from everybody? I'm just asking you, Vinny, I don't know how to get more information than I have. So you tell me how to get that.
I mean, to put it into perspective, you received your binders, all of you, at the end of February, and I didn't receive any emails about individual meetings.
That's not, you're correct. I've met many
So that
times
was
last
the
year.
more intimate setting to discuss some of these changes.
But that's not what I meant, because I appreciate that. You give me tons of information. I met with you many times last year on the budget, hours and hours. That's not my question. My question is the people doing the job, not the dollars, because you give, it's nothing against anybody. You give great information. I'm not discounting it. The question is the people that it impacts. I want to just hear, how do I know more about the role? Is it what services? Maybe it just comes from somebody in administration to just tell us, here's the list of things that they receive, and here's the number of children impacted, the exact number in an email, only because I didn't have that perspective, so I couldn't ask something I didn't know. So that's my question, not the numbers, because I get it. It's just that.
But as a board, to flow through Mr. Balone as a superintendent, he would get that information
That's fine.
for you.
So I can just ask, I'll send an email, I'll ask for all those things, and then we'll go from there. But thank you. The numbers you provide are great. It's not that what I'm looking for. It's the impact to everybody else.
Can we maybe shake up?
Can I say one more thing? Sorry, I think it's important. I think all of us are facing the same challenges, but I do want to recognize that even though we're making these cuts, that it was well thought out of how these kids are going to be serviced, right? It wasn't like, okay, we're making this cut and now we don't know what we're going to do with the kids. So I appreciate Mr. Balone and Vinny for looking into that. I don't want that to be lost. I don't think when you were making these decisions that you were happy with it either, right? So I think it's a board consensus that this is a very difficult decision. It's not something that any of us took lightly. So I do appreciate what you guys did. With the questions that we're bringing up, we don't want you to feel as well that we know you looked at all of this and then you came to the decision and brought it to the board. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Can we maybe shake up the order of which the staff reductions are presented, so it's not down to the wire? Like maybe it be part of discussion number 4 instead of discussion number 6. Like maybe that way giving staff a longer time frame of opportunity to come to public comments or voice their concerns instead of this 11th hour situation. While I respect, again, the work is impeccable. We really appreciate you, Vinny. I don't want you to take this personal. That's not what this is about. I'm just trying to see how we could maybe just function differently moving forward, so it doesn't feel so, like, not much we can do.
We would actually love for that as well, but the problem is our state aid numbers don't come out until mid-February, Vinny?
It was February 27th, it's actually like the
Late
last
February.
day of February.
That really drives the final push, right? So we don't know what we don't know until February 3rd week in February. So
I mean,
that's the difficulty.
The way the calendar is presented is not really beneficial to local districts because they give you your numbers after the governor's address and then expect you to turn around a budget
I
in
know.
less than 3 weeks to them.
I know.
And sometimes you have to make drastic changes, especially we kind of anticipated we were going to be reduced 3%, which if you go back to a presentation, I noted that that's what we could lose, and we did. So there is planning. It's just unfortunately, sometimes you have to look at positions to get to the number. But that is our last resort always. We don't just start a budget and go, let's get rid of a bunch of positions, because it's nothing that's
Of
ever
course.
fun and anything we ever want to do.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, just, to your point, Ms. Stewart, and I think this is, it's the unfortunate truth to this whole thing, right? They start in December with a zero fund budget, and then in February, we find out that we got hit with a 3% state aid cut while everything else is going up. I mean, that's just impossible. They're in a possible situation. We're also in an impossible situation. I hate to say it, state did not help us with a 3% cut, with $241,000. Is that right?
Correct.
Additional, yeah.
Dr. Miskowitz.
One of the hard things for Mr. Balone and all the administrators, especially with the kindergarten group, you don't know how many are going to come in, first of all, and you don't know how many are going to need these additional services. It's really, really hard for them to, plan this whole piece out. I'm sure that it took many sleepless nights too, and the only thing is cutting staff, and if you cut staff, that's a person. That's not going to, so that But if you cut staff, then what are you going to do? You need these for these little kids. So it's it's the money, and it's not it's not fair to districts like a Marlboro that really is doing everything right, and then we get shortchanged. I think we have to get down to Trenton and start stamping our feet. Our feet. But thank you for Mary Elizabeth. Thank you for all you guys do for everything. Because this is hard, and this I know, sitting here, this was hard for all of us. This because, like I said, I'm seeing little faces, but you don't know how many are we going to need? How many children are going to have? It could be a lot. It could be, but what would happen if, say we needed, we had an overflux of children that need some type of service. What is the alternative?
You would hope your state aid numbers go up because your enrollment's going up, but unfortunately our enrollment is kind of staying flat because the outgoing classes are a lot higher than the incoming ones.
Got it.
Especially at the kindergarten level sometimes.
Yeah.
I just want to, it's really important to know this. I want to say it again. The kids are still going to be cared for. They're going to have help from the coaches in the classroom. Again, not an ideal situation, right? But we were able to not cut jobs, and we were able to make sure that they're going to be helped by the coaches that are in the respective buildings. Right, and again, like I said, I know it's not ideal. Yeah.
And again, Mr. Balone and I always discuss things that we have to reduce in the hopes that we can get it back. We never forget what we reduce, because we know that's something on our radar. If it ever traversed back to us, we would reinstate it. But as long as there was security enough long term to keep it, you don't want to add something and then just take it away, and then add something and take it away. That's not conducive or just for anybody, especially children.
Okay. thank you very much for all this thoughtful conversation. It's extremely helpful and gives us some more things to think about as we move forward. Next item up for the agenda is curriculum. Dr. Miskowitz, would you please?
The superintendent of schools.
Here. Get.
Yes, continue.
No, go right ahead.
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. Interscholastic athletic competitions, spring sports 2024-2025 school year. I so move.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Ms. Seward, any discussions? All in favor? No, sorry. Roll call.
Mrs. Bellomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrero?
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Alonsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
And Mr. Cohen?
Yes. Next item up is personnel matters. Ms. Seward, would you mind?
Sure. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, retirements. 2, resignations. 3, staff paid with funds. 4, amended stipend, mentor teachers. 5, stipends, mentor teachers. 6, curriculum, station facilitators for Power Program, Parent Academy. 7, sick leave bank withdrawal. 8, substitute teachers. 9, paid medical disability leaves. 10, unpaid leaves of absence. 11, amended resolution leave dates. I so move.
Thank you. Have a second? Ms. Mendez? Any discussions? Mr. Caravello, roll call, please.
So I actually have one change to make for number 2, resignations. Amy Cullum, the effective date for 4/1/25 should be changed to today, 3/18/25.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Roll call, please.
Sure. Mrs. Bellomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrero?
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Alonsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
And Mr. Cohen?
Yes. Before we go on to the next item, Mr. Malone, you have some retirement comments for us?
I do. The first one is retirement comments for Bella Amin. Bella Amin joined the staff of Defino Elementary School in September of 2000 as a special education instructional assistant and moved to Marlboro Middle in 2002. Over the years, she's also served as a substitute teacher. Regardless of the position or specific responsibilities related to the assignment, Bella could be counted on to support the student, staff, and the entire school community. Notably, Bella loves math and relishes all opportunities to support students in the math program and share her knowledge of the content. Her passion and skills have proven to benefit numerous students in the program annually. Bella shared working with the students in the middle school has been a great time for me. You see them in 6th grade as very young students. When I see them graduating in 8th grade, I feel proud that they have achieved their goals in middle school. Marlboro Middle School has been my second home for the last 23 years. I loved working with many awesome teachers who had welcoming smiles every day. I have a special bond with students and teachers that I will always remember. I will carry those memories for the rest of my life. Bella plans to pursue her passion for painting and working with arts and crafts and to spend many hours playing with her grandchildren, Mira, Niam, Vinay, and Sean. Congratulations, Bella, on your retirement. Second one is retirement comments for Michelle Newman. After 21 years of service to the Marlboro School District, Michelle Newman has announced her retirement. Her journey began in November 2004 as a substitute instructional assistant, and by January 2005, she was officially hired. Over the years, she has contributed to multiple schools, including the Abbott Early Learning Center, Asher Holmes, and DeFino Central, before settling into her current role as kindergarten instructional assistant in 2017 at Dugan. Throughout her career, Michelle has cherished the connections she has built with the students, watching them grow and succeed. Working in kindergarten afforded Michelle one of the most rewarding aspects, seeing her former students in the hallways exchanging hugs and hellos for several additional years. A true highlight has been when past students return to share how they still remember her, helping them learn to write their letters and names. For the past 8 academic years, Michelle has valued her partnership with Mrs. Kane, from whom she has learned so much. Together, they have worked closely to support each child's success in the classroom. As she steps into this new chapter, Michelle is most excited about moving into her new home with her husband David and their beloved dog Biscuit. Their new house, just 10 doors down from her daughter, son-in-law, and newborn grandson, Atlas, will allow her to fulfill a lifelong dream of being an active part of her grandson's life. She is also looking forward to spending more time with her other daughter and making wonderful family memories. With newfound free time, she plans to enjoy decorating sugar cookies, kayaking, and hiking. We wish her all the best in this well-deserved next chapter. And finally, retirement comments for Christine Treza. It is with a mix of celebration and gratitude that we recognize the retirement of Christine Treza, a dedicated educator who has left an indelible mark on the Marlboro community. Reflecting on a remarkable career, Christine shared what she is most proud of, developing strong bonds with students and their families while fostering a structured yet nurturing learning environment. This balance has allowed countless students to feel comfortable, supported, and empowered to do their best. Christine has devoted 30 years to the Marlboro School District, with an additional 6 spent in private school settings, serving children with multiple learning challenges. Within Marlboro, her journey has spanned Marlboro Elementary, Asher Holmes, Dugan, the Early Learning Center, and DeFino Central Elementary. Over the years, she has taught general education kindergarten, as well as kindergarten, first grade, and second grade in both LLD and MD classrooms, bringing expertise and compassion to diverse learners. Looking ahead to retirement, she has exciting plans on the horizon. This spring, she will celebrate her son's college graduation, followed by travels with her husband, who is also retiring. Beyond personal milestones, she intends to give back through volunteering and service, with a particular passion for working with adults with intellectual disabilities, a cause close to her heart, inspired by her brother's special needs and the ongoing needs of this population. When asked what she will remember most, Christine spoke warmly of her students, getting to know each one as an individual, cherishing the shared learning experiences, and carrying forward the lessons her students have taught her. This sentiment reflects the depth, connection, and mutual growth that has defined her career. On behalf of the Marlboro Board of Education, we extend our heartfelt thanks to Christine Treza for 30 years of unwavering dedication to our students, families, and schools. We wish her a retirement filled with joy, adventure, and meaningful impact in the next chapter of her journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malone. I was just asking him about the number of years, as I missed it for Miss Amin. But when we think about this, these three Marlboro District employees have a combined history of almost 80 years of teaching and education, and it's amazing just to have, and they've touched so many lives. So thank you for all the things that you've done, Miss Amin, Miss Newman, and Miss Treza, for all the years of service here. And I wish you, and I know the board wishes you, a lot of success in your next journey, and I'm sure Biscuit will be very happy. Moving on to our next item, we have policy development. Ms. Gandhi, will you do that, please?
Policy Development and Community Relations Matters. 1, Buildings and Grounds 2025-2026 school year holiday calendar. 2, first readings. 3, second reading. I so move.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please? Dr. Miskowitz. Any discussions on Ms. Seward?
Yep, I have I'm just asking for a little insight as to the changes made in policy 5533, student smoking and vaping. What did it look like in the policy committee to change all of the shalls to may? I know it's a very small word, but the implication of the parents shall be notified into the parents may be notified is something that doesn't sit well with me. So I just wanted to know what that process looks like.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually a Strauss-Esme recommended change that we've been seeing consistently from their policies to sort of change the shalls to the may, or the shalls from changing to shalls from will, right? And you know, I will defer if I like. I have no policy. Yeah, well, no, it's the consistent change of crossing off will and making it shall, which has been a Strauss-Esme, which I'm sure you've been seeing for.
But is it recommendations or is it mandates? Because I know we got into some murky waters with that.
These are recommended changes. They're not mandates, as far as I know. You want to share?
I can shed some light, Mrs. Seward. So in the past, we have had some pretty healthy discussions at the policy committee level with shall versus may.
Or now shall versus will.
Well, so those are two distinctions, right? So shall is synonymous with will. So that's the change you're seeing here. So it's a synonym. When you have shall versus may, those are not synonyms, right? May is you can, and will or shall is you will, right? So it's definitive. So in this policy here, you're looking at words that are synonymous. In the past, we've dealt with shall versus may, which are different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but then why change it? If it's not mandated and they're synonymous, why not leave it will?
So Strauss comes with changes. A lot of times they'll change pupils to students and students to pupils.
So from my understanding, because I actually did a little deep diving into it because it stuck out to me as well when we received our notes, it seems that the recommendation comes with the connotation that it's actually a stricter form of implementing the policy. So shall means it will happen within a specific time frame, whereas will is it will happen at some point. So is that the intention of the policy committee, that the parent shall be contacted? It's actually a more serious use of the word than will, because that's what the recommendation is annotated if you actually research it. Yep. Is that it should be more in a time frame and direct to the parent. Is that the intention? Yeah.
It's just what Mr. Ballone said. It means the exact same thing. So it's not that we will let the parents know when we want to, but that we will let the parents know versus we shall, which is also the same thing. No,
you change it from will to shall, not vice versa. So it was will and it changed to shall, because shall has a more direct association. So the parent will be notified basically immediately upon the incident. That was the recommendation from Strauss. So I was actually excited to hear that we were changing them. So I just want to make sure that's what you guys intended.
And I appreciate that, because I think in the context of the way this is written, it is definitive that we will notify parents. We will take action. And I appreciate that too. I do believe that when we go through this, we look at each policy and we look at the recommendation languages, and there were some recommendations that Strauss made that we did not accept, and there were actually some things that we actually suggested that Strauss didn't make that we have put into our policies as well. So I think it's a hybrid approach of where it seems to be appropriate, and I'm glad that the board has looked at it and you're reading it and you're asking the questions. They're good questions.
Thank you.
Any other further discussions on this item? Mr. Caravella?
Roll call vote. Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Palomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrera?
Yes.
Mr. Alonsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
And Mr. Cohen?
Yes. We are up to the next item on our agenda, which is liaison reports. As I've done in the past, I'd like to do where you're a liaison, and if you have a school, so we'll do it together. Up first, Ms. Seward, Freehold Regional High School, and Abbott.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Messinger, for the update. They had their monthly board meeting last Thursday night, and the meeting took place at Marlboro High School. Big news at Marlboro High School is that they started construction on the new football fields and the bleachers that the township is paying for. The kids are super excited about that. As far as we know, the lights will be up, so look forward to some Friday night lights at Marlboro High School. We presented the facility improvements that were made with the proceeds from last year's tax increase. At Marlboro High School, there was a vestibule added at the front door for security reasons. Graduation proficiency exams were taken last week in English and math. And this last piece, it was reiterated that it was pretty bittersweet, but the math supervisor at Marlboro High School, Jennifer Okerson, got promoted to Director of Curriculum and Instruction for the entire Freehold Regional District. It's a loss for Marlboro High School. She really was one of the best educators at the school. Up next, thank you, Mr. Perno, for the Abbott update. Students loved our Read Across America celebration. Students had a blast celebrating theme days. The special performance of several staff and preschoolers was a huge hit. Of course, reading was the star of the show. Throughout the week, teachers emphasized the importance of reading and the difference it can make in your life. Next up is the Walk for Change. We are busy planning a series of activities that the students will participate in. Each activity will help students develop an appreciation for a wide variety of disabilities.
Thank you, Ms. Seward. Friday night lights are, yeah, we've Marlboro's hit the game circuit. Up next is Ms. Gandhi with Marlboro Education Foundation and Dugan.
Just wanted to mention, so for Marlboro Education Foundation, they are having a record year of ticket sales, which has been great, and so they did share their thanks to the administration in their support in making, and also the schools in making sure that they had assemblies. And so next week is the Wizards game, and I'm going to remind everyone again, you get to see Mr. Caravello and Mr. Ballone in the courts. So if you haven't bought your tickets, they're actually selling out. I think they're almost at capacity, which is again a record-breaking year for them. So congratulations, MEF, and can't wait to see what they use their funds and how they help our schools. So thank you.
Ms. Gandhi, am I correct? Coach?
Yes,
Coach?
Mr. Ballone is coach.
Player?
And Mr. Caravello is player.
What position?
Wherever they need me.
Utility player. I love it. All right. Dugan?
Yep. Oops. So principal's report is Dugan had another busy month beginning March with Read Across America Week. Staff and students celebrated with different themed days, which aligned to our favorite Dr. Seuss books. Joe Romano brought his magic of reading assembly to our school thanks to the Dugan PTO. Our fourth grade gifted and talented students attended the New Jersey State Law House for a field trip where they learned about the process for how a bill becomes a law. Students participated in the Cafeteria Advisory Committee with Ms. Connie, where they reviewed lunch choices and options and had the opportunity to provide feedback. As we round out the month, we are in the planning stages for many new and typical annual school events, including a living museum, family literacy event for ELL families, and other grade level field trips. And the Dugan PTO didn't provide a full report, but they said that if you want an accurate and up-to-date recap of the amazing things that the Dugan PTO is doing, is to go visit them on their website.
Thank you, Ms. Gandhi. Next up is Marlboro Township Liaisons and Marlboro Middle School.
Sure.
Mr. Lalansky.
Sure. From Lynn Franco, Township. The town launched a new municipal website. The format is cleaner and makes it easier to contact departments and services. Everybody should check that out. Brush collection continues, and bag leaf collection will begin by zone the week of March 24th. Leaves must be placed in a biodegradable paper bag that is free to residents using the online request form. A free leaf bag giveaway will be held on Saturday, March 22nd. Please request leaf bags 24 hours in advance. Monmouth County Mobile Connection, March 19th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Recreation Center. Services will include passport applications, renewals, and photos, Veterans Gold Star ID cards, will probate, and guardianship, register ready and youth ID cards, county ID cards, and notary service. No appointment is necessary. Emails are sent weekly detailing recreation programs, important information, reminders, and updates in times of emergency. Please visit the township website to register. From Principal Milwaukee and Marlboro Middle School. Thank you everyone who attended and supported the musical Shrek Jr. It was a huge success and everyone had a great time. It really was a great show. Kids did great. Kids, the teachers backstage, on front stage, they really go up, like I always said before, to go way above and beyond their calling with these students. They really take this job seriously. Spring sports are in full swing, baseball, tennis, and track. We continue to celebrate student birthdays each month with a special treat provided by the PTO. Students select a day during the month to have their free birthday snack at lunch. March is the month to celebrate trustworthiness. Dr. Sable will present programs to each grade level focusing on this character pillar. The 7th grade class won the Citizen Can Tab Collection Contest and was treated to ice cream at lunch last week. And on April 7th, our 8th grade students will have a special assembly entitled Mark It With a Stone, provided from a grant from the MEF and from Lauren and the PTO. Thanks to MMS families who dined out at Buffalo Wild Wings last week. We had a great turnout, and we're so thankful to those who participated. Our St. Patrick's Day raffle basket fundraiser just wrapped up, and our winner was randomly selected this morning. Our 8th graders are lucky to have had so many parents, family, and friends buy tickets, and all proceeds will go towards the dance in June. MMS Spring Closing Drive will take place on March 29th, Saturday. Clean out those closets to get ready for spring. Drop off your bags of clean and gently used items such as clothes, shoes, handbags, belts, linen, stuffed animals, and toys. Bags can be dropped off in front of the school anytime before 2 p.m. Birthdaygrams are one of our most popular ongoing fundraisers. Don't forget to order yours. We will decorate the front of your student's locker with a happy birthday sign that includes their name and birthday, as well as some 3D embellishments. PTO membership and Route 9 discount cards are still for sale and can be purchased online. The 8th grade dance tickets will go on sale in a couple of weeks. Planning is well underway. We can't wait to host this event. It'll surely be a night to remember. Class of 2025 lawn and towel sign fundraisers are going on now. Show your pride for your 2025 MMS graduate by purchasing a sign for display on your lawn and or a swim day towel. We're also offering a locker decoration fundraiser. We decorate your student's locker for graduation. All lockers will be decorated in June before graduation. Decorations will be MMS class of 2024 themed. 100% of all the proceeds go directly back to our 8th graders. And please check the PT board for more details and weekly updates. And real quick, Mr. Cohen, while I have the mic, when you read executive session, could you also read in safety and security as a topic? Because I have to give a report to the full board as well. Thank you.
Also, can I just add a little tiny tidbit to the Marlboro Middle School update? I was fortunate enough to donate blood on March 1st, and I just wanted to give a little feedback from a donor point of view. The kids were adorable. They were so excited to be there. It was very, very busy. Every cot was taken up by a donor, and I just wanted to commend them for the work that they're doing. The kids put in a lot of work and effort for that, and it was just really, really magical to be a part of seeing these young leaders take charge and take the initiative, and I just wanted to commend them for that. That's it.
I want to share your sentiment, but before I do that, I first want to recognize Mr. Lolansky. I went to the show on Friday night, and I know I was there with Dr. Miskowitz. Ms. Baloma was there. Ms. Carrero was there. There were several of us there at the same time. Mr. Lolansky, congratulations for the work that you do to support them. I watched you run that stage, and from what I understand, you had 1 week to prepare. That's amazing, because it was flawless from what I saw, and it was a great show, and I'm looking forward to going to the other shows. It was my first one here as a board member, so I'm really excited.
It's fun to see him boogie across the stage like that, isn't
he was, I love it. He had his Peter Pan gloves on. He was like moving those props around. He had it all coordinated, and he was telling everyone else where they had to go. So thank you for the work that you do. And then to your point about Healthy Futures, and that I wanted to be there. I couldn't. I had a family event. But I will tell you that I was so touched by that group of students and what they do. The nurses actually reached out to me at one point. My daughter's an EMT in this town, and she actually attended the club and taught them CPR. So it was exciting for her to be able to give back as an EMT. So those are examples of where we can give back to them, and she's encouraging them to become future cadets in Marlboro.
Yeah, really, it was very impactful for me to see them be so mature and so responsible. They had raffle baskets to win. They were giving out snacks and stickers and they were just so sweet. And from an O-negative donor, I just want to tell them, I'll see you in 56 days.
I'm right there with you, right there.
See you in 56 days.
We can compare. Ms. Gandhi, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I actually took my daughter to the show, and she loved it. She actually was like, oh, maybe I can try when I go to middle school for that class. But I loved all the Fionas and Shrek's sidekick. Oh my God, that girl who, I don't know who, the donkey, yes.
The donkey,
she
yes.
was amazing. She just knew, her she hit all the the funny things, she knew, her timing was right on point, basically is what I'm saying. It was a really good show, and I didn't realize until I saw you on stage that you had a hand in it, so then I came backstage, but you did an incredible job, really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, not me alone. It's a team, and I got to tell you, the teachers, they go, like I said before, they really go above and beyond. They're there the whole time practicing. I'm not there for a week, but they're there from September, October, practicing with these kids. And when you see the kids in the wings getting ready to go on, like you said, Donkey and whoever it is, and you see them saying their words over and over again and just counting the numbers, getting ready to run out, it's an amazing thing. So, yeah. Our middle school plays in this district are like high school plays.
It's things like this that remind us why we're here. And thank you for that work that you do.
And I just wanted to...
Dr. Nisquith.
And I was sitting right near Mr. Cohen and Mrs. Carrero. I saw Mrs. Blomo sat further up than we were. But the kids were absolutely outstanding, every single child. And the staff, the coordinators for the production were outstanding. And our buddy here was the tops. Thank you.
Okay, moving on along to our next, now it would be the Monmouth County School Board Association liaison, and Asher, Mr. Hyatt's not here, but Ms. Carrero, I understand you have the Asher report today?
Yes. Hold on, sorry. So thank you to Asher Principal for your update. March has been a blast at Asher so far, and we're only halfway through. We started the month by celebrating School Social Workers Week. Thank you to Ms. Hendler for all she does for both our staff and students. That week coincided with Read Across America Week, which featured a March Madness book tournament and a school-wide Drop Everything and Read event, followed by a spring book fair and the most amazing Authors Day celebration with the one and only John Hsu. Mr. Hsu inspired students and staff alike to feed their imaginations and hearts through reading and creativity. His presentation was awe-inspiring, followed by hours of connecting with kids through book signing and chatting. Thank you to our PTA for bringing Mr. Hsu to us once again. A shout out to our media specialist extraordinaire, Mrs. Allen, for organizing all of these reading events and for working with the PTA to bring these wonderful authors and illustrators into our building. Upcoming events in March include Spring Pictures, the PTA Bingo and Baskets fundraiser, and the Science Fair. In April, we look forward to the Grade 5 Social, an amazing art show, the PTA School Store, Walk for Change, Take Your Child to Work Day, Secretary's Day, and of course, Spring Break. Parents, please keep your eyes on your emails for more information as our spring calendar really starts to bloom.
Thank you. While we're with you, Ms. Carrero, do you want to just do Robertsville?
Yes. So thank you to Mr. G for preparing this report. Robertsville thanks the PTO for organizing the lip sync performance on March 14th at Marlboro Middle School. Between the staff and students, it's clear how talented Robertsville is. Spring Pictures took place on March 18th, and the 5th grade panoramic picture will take place on March 19th. Spring is in the air. On March 19th, Robertsville is holding an assembly that focuses on respect and anti-bullying. We thank the PTO for sponsoring. Our 5th grade social is pajama party themed and will happen at Robertsville on Friday, April 4th. Our students are really excited. On April 11th, Robertsville will celebrate the Walk for Change. The week of April 7th, students will experience stations that represent the message of accepting all abilities. As always, we are proud of our students and staff and our connection to our amazing community.
Thank you. Moving on to New Jersey School Board Association and Memorial, Ms. Mendez.
Yes, thank you. So a couple of things from NJSBA. Again, just a reminder for the community really is that board members receive sometimes daily clips, they call it, from NJSBA. Then we get weekly updates and a variety of things. So how I kind of pour through all of the information and I select things that I think would pertain to the district or whatever it might be, trends that are happening right now and so forth. So there's a few things that I pulled out. One was related because we are in budget season right now, and there was an article that was sent to us on March 17th about Murphy's budget relying on nearly $2 billion in these kind of like one-shot revenue sources. So I'm not going to read the whole article. I just outlined some key points. Since the community doesn't get it, it's just some level of important information. Just talking about how they plan to spend more than state government will take in during the next fiscal year, meaning that revenue from short-term fiscal maneuvers will cover nearly $2 billion of budgeted annual expenditures. They also said that according to this new fiscal estimate, NJ Spotlight News obtained through a public records request, roughly 3% of Murphy's overall $58 billion budget for the fiscal year begins July 1st will be backed by non-recurring revenue sources, commonly referred to as kind of like a one-shot deal. So what Mr. Caravello said before about, hey, you're taking it once, but next year, it will look the same. That's kind of where I thought that this would fit here. This would also include taking nearly $1.5 billion from general budget reserves to cover annual spending in the next fiscal year, according to new estimates. And another $250 million would also be transferred from the state's dedicated debt relief reserve to cover annual spending. And just a couple of other key points. This year, if lawmakers accept Murphy's latest fiscal plan, the amount of state government spending backed by one-shot deals would actually decline on a year-over-year basis. And that's because the current budget that Murphy and lawmakers enacted last year relied on non-recurring sources of revenue to back more than 7% of planned annual spending. And the last piece of that is spending on K-12 public school aid, mass transit, and public worker pension obligations are among the many line items due to increase in the new fiscal year under this proposed budget under Murphy. So I just wanted to share it. It was sent to all board members. And again, we're in a budget talk, so I thought that was important to share. The other two things, though, that were important last meeting, I brought up the 2025 Innovations in Special Education Award Program. Again, I just want to say that that's part of Special Education Week in New Jersey. And it's, again, program started on or after September 2024 will not be considered. And it began in 2002, and the Innovations Program has drawn wide interest from the state's special education community. And in 2024, 5 entries received top honors. And so entries must be received by 4:30 on March 21st. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. And the last piece is, I know I sent this to Mr. Blown, Mr. Cohen, and Mr. Hyatt. There's a Showcase Your Talented Students workshop 2025. So there's an annual workshop that board members can attend in Atlantic City in October. And they sent something out that you can showcase some of your top talented students. And so we have a ton of talented students here. And so Mr. Blown was going to take it back and kind of have discussions with his team to see what can we spotlight, if anything at all. So I just wanted to share that. And I know you were looking into that. So anyway, those are from NJSBA. From Marlboro Memorial, thank you, Mr. Pacifico. The Drama Club presents Mary Poppins Jr., another great show that's coming on March 27th at 6, March 28th at 7, and March 29th at 4 o'clock. So the kids are super talented, and we should all go out and see Mary Poppins Jr. I will be there too. Tickets are $10 at the door. The 8th grade music concert is on April 9th. Admission is free. Thank you to the PTA, Yvonne and Fiona. The PTA clothing drive is April 26th from 8:30 to 12. We also take bikes, just so you know. Finished the spring book fair last week and have started to collect donations for Teacher Appreciation week as well. Just so you know, the clothing drive also includes book drive. So if you have any books you want to donate, that's on April 26th as well here at Memorial. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mendez. It would be great to showcase our talented students here. Dr. Miskowitz, up to you now for scope and Morel, please.
Thank you to Mr. Schatz for submitting this, the updates for Morel. On March 21st, the PTO is sponsoring a dance for the girls. It's called the Butterfly Dance. They recently had a dance for the boys, and that was called the Heroes Dance, and they took their hero moms with them. On March 28th, there's going to be an author day, and author Elise Broche will be presenting and visiting with our students. The talent show event is currently being rescheduled, and a new date and location will be determined, and they'll send us the information soon. Beginning April 1st, we are bringing back our Lunch with a Loved One program in grade 5. Our PTO is assisting in organizing lunch dates with approved family members to join their 5th graders during a school lunch period. Buy a Brick. Beginning April 1st, we will begin our Buy a Brick fundraiser to support the Walk for Change and Scope. The Piglet Visit, that's Mr. Ballone and I have that on our calendar. To be held April 8th, a deaf and blind puppy will be visiting with our students. It will be tied into Disability Awareness Month. We will work to use this visit to continue building empathy and acceptance of all differences within our community. Walk for Change. On April 11th, we will be holding our Walk for Change, including stations where students will engage in empathy activities to build understanding and empathy for challenges some with special needs experience in their everyday lives. And that leads me right into special services and scope and CPAG. On March 12th, the Special Services Committee convened with the leadership of SCOPE and CPAG to discuss strategies for fostering unity and collaboration for the 25-26 school year. The meeting focused on identifying key areas where the community seeks support, including the development of additional parent academies and presentations that would be collectively supported and developed by all stakeholders involved. Thank you, Mrs. Tyrone, for organizing this. It's really been helpful, I think, for both groups and for our committee as well. Thank you. And then finally, I have a report from SCOPE. April will be filled with engaging and educational activities leading up to our April 11th Walk for Change, which is a celebration of inclusion, kindness, and diverse abilities within our schools. Students will have the opportunity to walk and donate change. All funds go towards programs and initiatives that support MTPS special education teachers and service providers, as well as students and families to support inclusion initiatives across all schools. Each school also sets up activities to promote kindness and understanding of all abilities. Send students in with cash or change on April 11th or visit our website to donate directly. It's scopemarlboro.ptboard.com. Also, we're excited to partner with Special Services to host the April 29th Circle of Friends presentation featuring Ben Hartraft, an inspiring autism advocate. Ben will share his journey and the profound impact of kindness and inclusion on his life. This event will take place at Marlboro Memorial Middle School before the board meeting, and all families are encouraged to attend. I would be remiss if I did not share how much fun the children and parents had at the bagel making fundraiser at Bagel Nook. As the guests walked in, they were given an apron to design and color. The children of all ages rolled up their sleeves and began making their own bagels from lumps of dough, which were put into the oven and miraculously appeared moments later, all ready to be smeared with the delicious cream cheese which the children had been whipping up together, complete with sprinkles and M&Ms. The children all left with bags of their own to share with family members. I, for one, can attest to how absolutely yummy those delicious bagels turned out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miskowitz.
Can I add to something to that real quickly? Because
yes.
I was there at the Scope as a board member and as a parent. I wanted to support Scope, and I was there with both my kids. And I think there were like, 15 or 20 kids there, and not one of them got up. They all behaved, they all stayed, but it was such a fun event. And, you know, as more things come out from Scope, I encourage board members as well as community to support that.
And
so.
you don't have to be, in special ed. It's open to everybody. So, we had a great time. We had a great time.
Thank you for sharing. Ms. Palomo, CPAG and Defino, please.
Yeah, so for CPAG, thank you, Angie and Robin, for the report. CPAG had our most recent parent meeting on Thursday, February 27th. Thank you to all the parents who were able to attend and provide discussion points to bring to CPAG's meeting with special services that will take place at the end of the month. CPAG, Scope, Board of Education, Special Education Committee members and special services met in a joint meeting on Wednesday, March 12th. The meeting was to discuss the roles of each organization and to work on ways to collaborate as needed. It was a very productive meeting with many ideas shared by all. The Spring Parent Academies have been scheduled by Special Services. March 21st will be about AI in special education, and May 28th will be the role of the BCBA and the FBA in school. Please see the March 11th email with additional information and all the virtual links for both. CPAG has some upcoming webinars posted on the Facebook page. 2 of the webinars that parents and guardians might be interested in are taking place on April 7th and April 9th. A representative from the ARC of New Jersey will be hosting a webinar on April 7th regarding Perform Care and services through the state. Multi-CPAGs across the state, including the Marlboro CPAG, are collaborating on a webinar scheduled for April 9th at 6:30 p.m. about self-care, taking care of yourself as a caregiver. The information related to these webinars and events can be found on our Facebook page with information related to them. If you aren't a member of the CPAG Facebook page, this is where we provide additional resources for parents in between our regularly scheduled CPAG parent meetings. Now for Defino's report, thank you to Nicole and Dr. Stradek for this report. For the month of March, on March 12th, we had author John Chu visit our school. He talked to students about his love of different books, and he really energized students and staff with his passion for reading. The assemblies were interactive and engaging. A big thank you to the Defino PTO for bringing Mr. Chu to our school. Read Across America Week was the week of March 3rd through the 7th. It was a great week filled with whole school and class read-alouds, reading buddies, fun-themed dress-up days, book swaps, and even reading with a flashlight. Thank you to our librarian, Mrs. Atwood, for coordinating and planning a great week. A cool project that took place in 5th grade involved writing letters to students' favorite restaurants. There were a number of restaurants who wrote back and some who supplied coupons or brought pizza for the class to enjoy as a treat. What a great example of the impact you can make through writing. Our 5th graders also had a night all about celebrating them at our 5th grade dance that took place on March 7th. They loved dancing the night away at their glow party. Thank you to our 5th grade committee for planning and organizing. Thank you to all those who supported the PTO Gertrude Hawk fundraiser. We are so excited to deliver the yummy chocolates to you all in the coming weeks. For the month of April, Disability Awareness Month, we will have different activities in our related arts program during the week of April 7th to 11th, connected to disability awareness, concluding with the Walk for Change on April 11th. Science Fair. The PTO is excited to bring back the Science Fair this year. We have over 45 students that will be creating their own projects and presenting on their findings the evening of April 1st. Fun Run. The PTO is most excited for our largest fundraiser of the year, our 3rd annual Dolphin Dash. We have a dream team of parent volunteers working with us to ensure that this event is the biggest, most fun experience yet. The goal for this year is to purchase and install a permanent covered structure over the blacktop area where the tennis court was to allow for shade during recess as well as outdoor classroom opportunities. 25-26 Executive Board. We can't believe it, but it's just about time for our nominating committee to convene and work on our slate for the 25-26 school year. Details will be coming out early April, but if you're interested, don't hesitate to email us now for more info.
Thank you, Ms. Palomo. Okay, we are up to old business. Any old business? Seeing none, any new business? Seeing none, we are at the second round of public comments. Mr. Caravello?
Yes, I have no one signed up. Anybody like to speak, please just come up to the mic and state your name and address, please.
Hi. Aldo Petruno, Morganville, New Jersey. So I just wanted to circle back to the budget. I understand that the budget was tentatively passed tonight. Like, like Vinny said, changes can be made to it. I just want to make sure that the board, because there's a lot of you that weren't here, some of you are just starting your terms, and, in the spring of 2023, when we had our tentative budget discussions, there was coaching positions that were removed at that point with the same kind of scenario. People weren't going to be let go. They were going to be switched into different positions. At that time, we had seen a huge spike in health and benefit costs. And it was explained, that, again, these people were not going to be out of a job. They're just going to be switching a position. And it sounds very similar to what it sounds like you all heard leading up to tonight. And it concerns me a little bit, because hearing the public comments from the first public comment, those are major changes. And when it happened last time, it was supposed to be a one-time thing, but now we're doing it twice in 2 years, and that's a trend. At one point, I appreciate the information that you give everyone. I know it's spot on. I'm concerned about the information that's coming to the board members about these positions and the impact they're going to have on the children. Let's not forget that, our schools being fantastic is one of the many reasons that people come to our town and want to live in our town, and we got to keep them that way. And taking care of the students in the classroom with the proper support is paramount. That's number one. Right now, my opinion, and I've stated it when I was on the board, is that the administration is top-heavy. If there's someplace that cuts need to be made, I really think you guys need to take a look at this and circle back. We're talking about $205,000 in a $103.5 million budget. It's like 0.0019% to keep these people in their positions so that we can get these kids, the level of education and assistance that they expect and deserve. I really can't ask you guys, I beg you guys to really think about this and rethink it, because if I had heard what I heard tonight in 23, I wouldn't have voted for that. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Petruno. And, your sentiment about the spring 2023, I know Ms. Mendez has shared with us as well, so I appreciate that. It's something for me to, and I know Ms. Carrero, for us to learn about, so I appreciate you raising that. Anyone else want to come to the mic for a second round of public comments? Mr. Pollack.
I'm going to send Adam Pollack, St. Lawrence Way. I'm going to send an email about this, but there was, those special referendum elections that just happened in March for a bunch of townships, and one township that had a successful referendum was North Brunswick Township, and their situation was almost exactly the same as ours, where there was going to be no tax increase. The problem was HVAC. The problem was facilities. They put a website up. They put a whole like social media campaign out there around what they were doing, and it passed 3-1. I think 1,800 people voted for it. Only 500 people voted against it, and the whole thing was, we're not going to get no, taxes will not go up. We'll be able to use the money from the state. We'll save $1.5 million or whatever. It was the exact same thing. And they had a really good communication plan about that. So I'll send you guys the website and everything, but it seemed very well run, very successful, exact same situation. We should do something similar to what North Brunswick Township did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pollack. This is definitely on our mind, and it's definitely important to us for this referendum and the success of it, and it's going to take a town to get this passed. And we're going to be looking for a lot of help to sort of communicate this so that we can get this taken care of. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone else for public comments?
How you doing? Gary Brock. The $205,000 that you're saving by eliminating the 2 math coach positions, is it safe to assume that's their salaries combined, or is that what it would cost you to hire 2 new teachers to fill the spots that they're going to go into as far as the staff members? That's the first question. Second thing is, we keep speaking about the children that are being affected. It's all the kids that are going to be affected, first of all, okay? And there's no specific number, but when you take 2 staff members out of a position that are treating a certain amount of kids, and you dish them off to other staff members who already have a workload on them, right? They're not going to get the same service. Now, I can't say that I would want to be in your shoes. I understand what cuts are all about, all right? But you cannot put the same service to a child when you're adding more and more children to staff members. Okay, the time isn't there. The time isn't there in a day, the time isn't there in a school year. All right, so if you had one child who's getting a specific amount of time and you throw them to another staff member who's got X amount of kids, those X amount of kids are now going to lose that amount of time because you're adding another child. So to say that, you've kind of made the move, you know that the kids are going to get the same services, I don't agree with that. Right? And once again, I wouldn't want to be sitting in your shoes, and it's a difficult spot to be in. So that's what I'd like to add to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. I appreciate your sharing those thoughts and sentiments. Anyone else for public comment? Ms. Dono.
Hi, Farabono, Nashua Drive, Marlboro. I actually was here 2 years ago at the board meeting and spoke up in response to saving the positions of the coaches and asked to try and get flexible at that meeting. Considering what's going on in the culture of the world and the culture of the federal government, cuts at all levels, we do know that this is going to be a continuous problem for our school district, let alone all of our neighboring school districts. So I understand that that number doesn't get released to us until February 27th, at the very last moment, but I do think that maybe moving forward, we could be a little bit more creative with having alternative plans, and we could explore those plans before the last minute, because this is not ideal. As a parent of a child who did receive coaching services when my students went through Dugan and Marlboro Middle, in addition to being a parent, I think, well, I've been at the Early Learning Center when they call buses and they ask the children to line up for the rabbit bus or the cow or the duck, I don't even remember, but they are all, you go to Robertsville and they're all numbers. And it's a complete, and at the Early Learning Center, the children walk down, I believe, like the middle of the hall. Like at Robertsville, you have to line up. You have to have silent hallways. We expect our older students to model that behavior for our younger students. And therefore, there's a whole component that needs to be explored in addition to the services. We have to talk about the social emotional growth and the differences of what happens, the peer buddies, the interactions, the modeling of behavior. So understanding our financial troubles and hopefully getting a referendum passed, but moving forward, we, like I said earlier and asked earlier, to consider redistricting so that all students of a building could be in the same building together and have the same opportunity that's equal and fair for everyone as far as academic growth and social growth, and just be a little bit creative in the way we explore our options. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bono. Ms. Brock.
Thank you. So this whole entire time, I did meet with Mr. Ballone, Ms. Gross this morning. he has used adjectives like wildly effective. So in my opinion, I do feel like my value in this position is not being questioned, but I'm not sure if there was a different way to touch point with me or communication. But on last Tuesday, I had a session at Dugan. I run over to the ELC to get to an IRNS meeting. I open up my computer and I'm informed, be prepared to meet with Mr. Ballone, my principal, and Mrs. Gross at 12 noon. Had no idea what it meant. Shaking, stomach dropping, holding it together, meeting with those parents virtually, in person, telling them, I'm going to meet with your kid 3-4 times a week. I'm going to do everything I can to fill in those gaps so that in first grade, those coaches don't have these kids. I had to sit there, get it together, and think to myself, this is never going to be the same. In my head, I had no idea if my position was being eliminated, what their plan was. And then to go on with the rest of my day. So if I could be the professional, how was that professional? There has to be a different way. Like, Mr. Patron comes up here and says, we're top heavy. I do not want to throw any other position under the bus. But to think of these little kids that we know nothing about, you keep talking about numbers, I can produce them. I have them right there. I travel with a cart, school to school, with all my materials. I don't even ask for a classroom. I'm in the hallways, I'm in cafeterias, every minute of my day. Some days I don't even get a prep. I don't feel valued because it wasn't even a conversation on the table. It was a blind side. And then to sit there with my colleagues, I have a math coach team that is amazing and know that what they do works too. RTI is a process that's supposed to be fluid. Kids are supposed to go to tier 2 into tier 3. We can't say that those numbers are going to stay the same. They shouldn't be staying the same. It's a system that's broken. If they're not meeting their goals in a specific amount of time, they go to the next level. We meet again at IRNS. They go to child study team. Sometimes child study team says that it's not warranted. So we continue to take those kids. The first thing they say is, take these kids more often. They need more intensive interventions. Then, when that happens, and if no progress gets made, child study team, it's warranted now. It takes 20 days to meet with parents, and then 60 more days to finish an evaluation. And sometimes there's no discrepancy. Those kids will not have an IEP. But in that process, guess who's doing the job again? We don't get rid of those kids. So there's so much more to this. I can list all my responsibilities, but the factor is, I was up here when kindergarten assistants were being basically eliminated. I fought for them. Now they're only there half-time. Look what's happening again. It's just always going to be the students that are affected. And there's got to be a different way. Please, I'm begging you to go back to the drawing board, and I will go back to saying, I'm not fighting for my position. I don't even care if I'm not standing in here. This needs to be here for the kids. Things are going to be sacrificed. Student achievement is not going to be where it is. I asked before, Middle school coaches are not there. How are they supporting RTI? What's going on in our middle schools? And there's only so many minutes in a day for a schedule and everything else that it entails. I can give you the numbers. I've done I put this together in a week, not even. And I just don't think that this is the solution. I think this is going to be a really big mistake.
Thank you, Ms. Brock. I know we all feel the emotion of your sentiments, and you know, again, as I said earlier, you bring an awareness to all of us that I appreciate, and I know the rest of the board members appreciate in getting that perspective. It's very helpful for us in the work that we do and why we're here. So thank you for sharing that, and for making it very clear to all of us that it's about the kids. So thank you. Anyone else for public comments? Motion to close public comments. Ms. Gandhi, a second. Ms. Carrero, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Public comment is closed. Next item on our agenda is an executive session. I've been informed by our board counsel for the evening that there are no matters of attorney-client privilege for us to go into executive session. Is there any member of the board that has other than safety and security? You're the chair of the committee. Okay. Then we will go into executive session. So motion to go into executive session. Ms. Gandhi, second. Ms. Carrero, all in favor? Aye. We will be going into executive session now, and we will not be coming back out for any public action. So thank you, everyone, for being here this evening and for sharing your comments.